Hashi. A girl with long, bright red hair stretched out on the bed. Miko. It was wonderful. Hashirama leaned over and kissed his beloved. The sun was just beginning to rise. Its rays played beautifully on the girl's hair, making it flare up with an incredibly beautiful scarlet color, deep and rich. The man smiled. Makoto Uzumaki looked simply charming. The Senju quarter was quiet, almost no one was up that early. All the better. The girl stretched and stood up. Hashi, how do I get to the bathroom from here? Straight down the corridor and to the left. Makoto went to freshen up, and Hashirama got up, got dressed and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. However, his thoughts were far from romantic. The first Hokage did not know how to start a conversation with Makoto. He had long wanted to tell her why the delegation from Uzushio had come to Konoha, but he still could not bring himself to do so. The girl, meanwhile, managed to rinse herself off under the shower and get dressed. She did not put on a robe, but immediately put on a dress and went down to the first floor. I didn't know that the legendary Hashirama Senju, the founder of Konoha, loved to cook. Makoto laughed loudly. The man smiled back, and then somehow wilted. Something happened, Hashi. The head of the Senju clan mentally gathered all his will into a fist. Damn, I have to tell her everything. Stop being afraid. You're a shinobi, damn it. You're the head of the village. Damn it, I can't. Hey, Hashi. The brown-haired man sighed. Miko, you know for what purpose the envoys from your clan arrived in Konoha. Of course I know. We've been trying to discuss all the details of the cooperation agreement for almost 3 weeks now, so I've known about it for a long time. Miko, I've wanted to tell you for a long time. Hashirama gathered his courage. The girl froze with her eyes wide open, in which joy shone. Kashi, really? No, it's not what you thought. Anyway, Senju hesitated. Makoto looked straight into his eyes in surprise. Anyway, Uzukage set a condition. A condition that I must fulfill in order for the contract to be signed. What is this condition? I have to marry your older sister. On Mito, Uzumaki jumped up from her seat. Why didn't you tell me about this? I tried to dissuade Fudo from this, but he stands his ground. You didn't agree with that, did you? You said that you loved me, didn't you? Hashi, you didn't. Hashirama lowered his head. Forgive me, Miko, I really love you alone, but, for the sake of my village, I have to. I will marry your sister, and the contract will be signed. So it must be. Hashi, how are you? Why, Hashi, why? Makoto was already screaming at the brown-haired man and with tears in her eyes grabbed him by the shoulders. I'm sorry, Miko, it's my duty. The girl closed her eyes, then turned sharply and walked towards the door. She turned around at the threshold, and the man read rage in her eyes. And pain. I hate you, Hashirama Senju, Makoto said through her teeth, letting out her anger. Then she turned around and walked away from the mansion at a fast pace. The Hokage stood and watched in silence as the one he loved left. His heart felt cold, just like the day his only friend left the village. Forgive me, Makoto. Uchiha Madara walked slowly along the streets of one of the small towns in the Land of Lightning, which was located near Kumogakure, and thought about plans for the future. Hey, never mind, we'll meet again, Hashirama. And I'll be the one running the village, not you. However, such heavy thoughts were gradually replaced by others. It's boring here. Should I have some fun? Have a drink, have some fun. No one recognized Madara. The special technique, which was essentially a hybrid of Henjin Genjutsu, disguised him perfectly. The founder of Konoha did not need any unnecessary fuss. He needed to lie down, gather his strength, make a plan and defeat Hashirama. A charming, unusually pretty girl passed by Madara. A slender blonde with curvaceous forms, a beautiful face and bright blue eyes, just any man's dream. But I wouldn't mind relaxing with her. Uchiha approached the girl. Hey, hottie, can I invite you to the bar? Leave me alone. You can't be so rude to me. Madara clicked his tongue, I might get offended. Get lost. I'm Ima Namikaze. My husband is the head of the clan, and if he finds out. He won't find out anything. Uchiha activated the Sharingan and caught the blonde in Genjutsu. The girl obediently, like a doll, followed the brunette. It's not very interesting this way. But there's less noise. Never mind, I'll have fun with her in a more secluded place. For example, that hotel would be great for that. Great-grandmother Miko, I will miss you. The girl stood next to the old woman with tears in her eyes. An elderly woman with scarlet hair hugged her granddaughter. I'll miss you too, Kushina. Grow big, eat a lot, study hard. Okay, The girl sniffled and hugged her grandmother tighter. But don't forget to have fun. Makoto winked conspiratorially at her granddaughter. She smiled. What are you teaching her, Grandma? A stern woman appeared from behind the door. Mom. The girl hugged the woman. I don't want to leave. Kushina, it's only for 6 months. You'll come back later. Don't want. Kushina, come here, please. The girl ran up to Makoto. Listen to me carefully. Say hello to your great-great-aunt, Mito Uzumaki. She's been living in Konoha for many decades. I have another great-grandmother. The girl's eyes widened in amazement. Yes. Just don't tell anyone else about this, not even your mother. Promise. Yes. And also, Makoto put her hand in the pocket of her cape and took out a necklace. A large blue-green crystal hung on a thick string, and on either side of it were small metal beads. This is your great-grandfather's necklace. I kept it for many years. Now it's yours. Great-grandfather. Yes. Remember, I told you about him. He was a hero, a true shinobi and a wonderful person. A sad, but at the same time bright smile appeared on Makoto's face. Great-grandmother. Thank you very much. The girl hung on the old woman's neck. Goodbye, Kushina. Envoys from Konoha approached the girl. It's time for us to go. The girl waved to her relatives until she lost sight of them. Makoto looked at the setting sun for a long time. We won't see each other again, Kushina. I feel it. Well, but her character is somewhat similar to yours. Hashirama. Minato. And has your clan always lived in Konoha? The blonde smiled. After the incident with the ninja from Cloud, he and Kushina became inseparable. They were already teased as the bride and groom. However, they both did not mind such a nickname. No, Mom told me that my great-grandmother, Ima Namikaze, lived in the Land of Lightning. It was later that most of the clan moved to Konoha. I see, Kushina smiled. Why did you decide to ask about this? Just like that, I got interested. Let's go practice. Let's go. Minato stood up from the bench and picked up Kushina in his arms. Hey. The girl laughed loudly. What are you doing? The guy was already running with his precious load to the training ground. Naruto. You will have to endure a lot of pain and suffering. Despite the pain, Kushina smiled. Kyuubi's claw pierced her stomach, and the woman had only a few minutes left to live. Remember who you really are. Set a goal, find a dream and achieve it at any cost. More. Tears rolled down her mother's cheeks. I still want to tell you so much. I want to stay with you. I love you. Kushina burst into loud sobs. I'm sorry, Minato. I wasted all your time. Everything is fine. The blonde smiled warmly and looked at his son. Naruto, I want to wish. I want to wish you everything that Mom wished. The time allotted to the Hokage by the Death God seal was running out. The seal of the 8 trigrams. The howl of the Kyuubi echoed across the clearing. A moment later, the fox was sucked into the spiral seal on the baby's stomach, and Minato and Kushina fell in the middle of the clearing. The barrier disappeared with a soft pop, and the Konoha shinobi rushed inside. The medics instantly found themselves near the Hokage and his wife, but it was too late. Kushina had already died, and the fourth's wounds were incompatible with life, and the seal had almost completed its effect. Let Naruto be considered a hero, was all Minato managed to exhale before he gave up the ghost. Screams of sorrow were heard from all sides. Although shinobi are taught to control their emotions, the Konoha members were too attached to their Hokage to calmly watch him die. The baby was sleeping, and sleeping so soundly that even the noise around him could not wake him up. Chapter 1. The Genius of the Uchiha Clan. Why? A small boy with blonde hair sat alone on a swing opposite the academy. For what? The ropes creaked softly. The wind ruffled the unruly hair, raised light clouds of dust, and played with the leaves that had fallen to the ground. For what? Naruto cried, silently swallowing his tears. Why did everyone hate him so much? He hadn't done anything bad to anyone. Naruto was called a demon by everyone, constantly insulted, driven away from everywhere possible. But that was only half the trouble. A week ago, he was almost beaten by some shinobi. Then the boy was protected by a man from Anbu in a dog mask. In general, as far back as Naruto could remember, he was often beaten. Mostly, he was attacked by ordinary people who were not even ninja. But what could a little boy do against them? And many ninja beat him, especially if they were drunk. Shinobi mature faster than normal people. And orphans, despised by everyone, mature even faster. For a 4-year-old, Naruto was already much smarter and more serious than most of his peers. Therefore, he knew perfectly well that it was better for him not to appear on the streets in the evening, when drunk shinobi began to appear. It was getting darker. Naruto got off the swing and slowly walked into the small, empty, lonely apartment. How he wanted his parents to be alive. How he dreamed that one day he would return home and his mother would greet him with a smile on her face. And then his father would come back from a mission and play with his son, and then take him to training and teach him shinobi techniques. Naruto did not know his parents, but for some reason he never doubted that his mother was very kind and beautiful, and his father was strong and cheerful. Mom, Dad. The old Hokage stubbornly refused to tell the boy who his parents were. The only thing he knew was that they were shinobi and died on the day of the Kyuubi's attack on Konoha. October 10th, his birthday. Here he is, the demon. Naruto shuddered. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice 3 tipsy shinobi coming out from around the corner. But they noticed him right away and were already heading towards him with unsteady steps. The boy instantly turned around and ran. Stop right there, brat. Naruto had only one thought in his head, to go as far as possible, to hide so that they wouldn't find him. But he couldn't escape from his pursuers. Naruto accidentally turned into a dead end, and the ninja caught up with him there. Got you, you little bastard. You can't run away now, little demon. The blow to the stomach was very painful for Naruto. The boy immediately curled up into a ball in the corner, but clenched his teeth and did not utter a sound. The shinobi began to beat Naruto furiously, putting all their strength into their blows. Despite the fact that they were completely drunk, they tried to hit him accurately, in the most vulnerable points, in the stomach and head. Tears were already streaming down the boy's face. His body was covered in bruises and ached terribly. There was a bump on the back of his head, his lip was split. There was a nasty, metallic taste of blood on his tongue. Why are they beating me? For what? I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. Naruto's vision suddenly became much sharper. Even though it was already dark, he could now see the objects around him in great detail. Tiny spots on the shinobi's uniform, cracks in the bricks in the foundation, trash near the trash can opposite the fence. Naruto could see everything clearly. Even time seemed to slow down, and he could now discern the slightest movement of the ninja. The guy jumped up and slid like lightning through the gap between the standing shinobi. Where to? Stop. No way. The boy was already running away like a bullet. His arms and legs ached from the beatings, and Naruto moved solely by force of will. It was already quite late, and the boy ran alone through the empty streets. However, behind him he could hear the loud cries of drunks who were unhappy that Naruto had slipped out from under their noses and decided to catch up with their victim. Uzumaki ran as fast as he could, without stopping for a moment. He understood that it would be better for him to run to the Hokage's residence, where they would definitely not dare to touch him. However, while running, Naruto ended up in an unfamiliar area of Konoha and had no idea which way to go. The Hokage Rock was, of course, visible from here, but none of the streets led in its direction. So he simply ran forward, hoping to escape. The boy was already very tired, but he continued to run, realizing that his life could depend on it. Naruto ran out onto some alley. There were houses on the right, and a long pond on the left, which stretched quite far. Steps led down to the water itself, and a wooden bridge was laid from the steps. Turning around to see how far he had broken away from his pursuers, the blonde stumbled, flew forward a few meters and fell onto a slope, and a moment later rolled down the embankment to the very water. No, can't I get away from them? The stomping and drunken shouts were getting closer and closer. No, why? For what? What have I done to them all? I don't want to be beaten again. I don't want. What are you doing on the Uchiha clan's territory? Naruto didn't see who was saying this, but he was mentally grateful to him 1,000 times for saving him. The voice was very stern, but it clearly belonged to a teenager. Naruto could tell right away. The boy was lying by the water and couldn't see what was happening above, on the path, and so it was as if he turned into hearing and tried to hear. Who is he? But, he's alone. He can't handle them. All of them. Get out of the way, kid. Don't bother us, we want to punish the little demon. One of the shinobi, apparently, roughly tried to move the teenager out of the way. A dull sound of impact was heard. Yutaka. I repeat once again. What are you doing on the territory of the Uchiha clan? You, little one. You attacked Yutaka. Well, that's it, you're finished, bastard. The drunken shouts grew louder. Judging by the sounds, the guy was surrounded from all sides. A moment later, a muffled cry was heard. Damn, he has a Sharingan with 3 Tomo. It's that same guy, the genius of the Uchiha clan. Let's get out of here. The loud stomping died away in the distance. The people who proudly called themselves shinobi ran away with their tails between their legs. Naruto exhaled calmly. But then he cringed at the thought that the man who had so unexpectedly saved him also hated him, like all the other villagers, and would attack him himself. The boy, who forgot for a moment from the pain, vividly imagined what the man from whom the three had run away in fear could do to him. Those drunks had left no living place on Naruto. What could this guy do? No, just not. Please, just not. Hey, how are you? The guy went down the embankment and approached the blonde. Are you okay? Not too badly hurt. Naruto was taken aback and couldn't immediately find what to answer. Are you afraid of me or something? Don't be afraid, I won't touch you. The brunette helped Naruto get up from the ground and gave him a quick look. He glanced at his split lip, the bruises and contusions, the scrapes on his knees. Naruto had already regretted wearing shorts when he fell the first time. The skin on his knees was uncovered and easily torn off when he fell, and carefully examined the bump on Naruto's head. And he frowned slightly. Come with me. We should take you to the hospital. The boy stood there, blinking his blue eyes in confusion. The teenager smiled with the corner of his lips. In general, as Uzumaki noticed, his savior looked too mature for his age. His facial expression, his gaze, even his smile, not like a boy his age, but like an adult like the old Hokage. But the boy couldn't help but respond to the first smile addressed to him personally. He smiled back a little hesitantly. No, I'm not afraid now. And who are you? I am Itachi Uchiha. And I am Naruto Uzumaki. And tell me. The boy looked questioningly into the teenager's eyes. Why do you treat me like this? How so? Well, Naruto hesitated. They constantly call me a demon, or a spawn, or something else bad. And they chase me away from everywhere. And they beat me often. The boy had completely lost heart by the end of his speech, remembering everything the villagers had done to him. No, he didn't hold a grudge against them at all, he just felt very sad and hurt. Naruto wanted to be loved, and he did everything he could to achieve this, but instead of care he received anger and hatred. Itachi frowned. He knew, of course, that the Kyuubi had been sealed in little Naruto since birth. But the Uchiha didn't understand the villagers who bullied the boy. Yes, the Kyuubi had destroyed Konoha 4 years ago, but what did Naruto have to do with it? He wasn't to blame for that attack. However, even if we don't take into account the pity for the boy who was left an orphan, it was dangerous to touch the blonde because of the same Kyuubi. If the boy suddenly began to hate the people of Konoha, the demon could break out again. And this time there would be many more victims than in the last attack. Itachi was truly a genius. To graduate from the academy at just over 7, to awaken the Sharingan at 8, no one else in the entire Uchiha clan was capable of this. Now Itachi, in addition, received the title of Chunin, and his authority among the clan increased. I doubt anyone will object to me if I help him. No, you're not a demon. People make mistakes. You're just a boy who needs help. You really think so? Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. He couldn't quite believe that everything that was happening to him now wasn't a dream, but the real reality, that the guy who was standing in front of him now wasn't a figment of his imagination. For the first time in Naruto's life, there was a person who was truly kind to him, if you don't count the old Hokage. That's why he was terribly afraid that as soon as he blinked, the obsession would disappear, and he would be left alone again, hated by everyone. Of course, Itachi smiled. And address me as, you, okay. The boy beamed with happiness. Fine. Let's go. The teenager extended his hand to Naruto. We should get you to the medics as soon as possible, you have some pretty serious injuries. The blonde wanted to get up, but groaned in pain and sank to the ground, and a moment later lost consciousness. Holy shit, Itachi cursed quietly. He didn't think things would be that bad with the boy. The brunette picked up the boy in his arms. Fortunately, Naruto was light as a feather, and the Uchiha's trained hands barely felt such a small weight. A moment later, Itachi was quickly moving towards the hospital, jumping from roof to roof. Chapter 2. Night Conversation. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and saw a clean, perfectly white ceiling. The sharp smell of medicine and bleach hit his nose, removing all doubts the boy had about where he was. Hospital. Well, here we go again. Naruto was regularly hospitalized, all because of the people who beat him. The boy rarely remembered who exactly delivered him to the medics, but as far as he knew, they were Anbu sent by the Hokage. Naruto already knew most of the staff by name. There were some doctors who treated the boy well, though even they were distant. But most of the medics treated the blonde the same way as everyone else, indifferently at best, with poorly concealed hatred at worst. The only reason they treated the boy was the Hokage's order. Naruto listened to his feelings. His body almost didn't hurt. Uzumaki carefully moved his arms and legs, wrapped in bandages, and made sure that he hadn't received any really serious injuries, like fractures. Everything else on him healed with surprising speed. Are you awake yet, Naruto? The boy turned his head. In the room, besides him, there was also the old Hokage, 2 Anbu, and that guy, Itachi Uchiha, who protected him from the drunk shinobi. Yes, old man Hokage. The boy smiled broadly at Hiruzen, and then turned his gaze to the teenager. Thank you, Itachi-san. You're welcome. The corners of the brunette's lips twitched in a barely noticeable smile. And no need to address me so formally, okay. Okay, Itachi-san. Oh, sorry. The Hokage laughed. Naruto, how are you feeling? Already good. That's great. Can I go home already? It depends on the doctor. If he allows it, then go ahead, and if not, then you'll lie down for as long as necessary. An unfamiliar medic entered the room. He approached Naruto and quickly examined him, making some notes in his notebook. When he headed for the door, the Hokage quietly asked him something. The medic answered. The old man nodded with satisfaction. Naruto did not hear what they were talking about, because he was concentrating on looking at his savior. It was too dark yesterday, and the boy was too scared to look at anyone. Itachi was a skinny teenager. He looked about 10 or 11 years old, but his gaze and facial expression were too serious, too mature. Naruto had noticed this yesterday, but he could see it especially clearly today. Another curious detail of his appearance were his scars, too thin, even, symmetrical threads that ran diagonally from the bridge of his nose to his cheekbones. Looking at them, Naruto unconsciously ran his hand over the stripes on his cheek. Naruto, the doctor has cleared you to go home. You'll just have to stay in bed for a while. The boy smiled happily. It was better to spend a day lying in your apartment, where no one looked at you sideways or said nasty things under their breath, than the same amount of time in a hospital that smelled of medicine. In the apartment, you could read a book. At the Hokage's request, Naruto was taught to read, and now the boy could sit for hours over really interesting books, eat something tasty. There was none of that in the hospital. Itachi, you know where Naruto's apartment is, right? Yes, Hokage-sama. I'll take him home. Itachi bowed to Hiruzen, and then turned to the boy. Well, shall we go? Yeah. Naruto climbed onto Itachi's back and the two disappeared behind the door. The Hokage took a deep drag on his cigarette, blew out a cloud of smoke, and rose from his chair. Well, I guess I should get back to the residence. Kakashi, Tenzo, your mission will be to protect Naruto. I don't trust Danzo's people, they don't watch the boy at all. I don't need any more accidents like this. Yes, Hokage-sama, the Anbu bowed and disappeared. And Hiruzen slowly walked along the hospital corridors to the exit, thinking about the events of tonight. Hokage's residence. Around 10 o'clock in the evening. Hiruzen Sarutobi hated paperwork. Dealing with reports, personal files and other waste paper. There was probably no more tiring job in the world. However, the post of Hokage required Hiruzen to sort through a whole mountain of useless papers every day. It was not always possible to deal with them quickly. And today, the Sandaime Hokage stayed up late, signing and stamping documents. Just a little more and I'll finally be able to go home. Haha, how tiring the work of the village head is. Itachi Uchiha flew into the office. The Hokage was surprised, because the guy usually behaved calmly and sensibly, sometimes even too much, and it was almost impossible to see him rushing somewhere. Hokage-sama, Naruto was attacked by shinobi. I stopped them, but Naruto received serious injuries. Where is he? The head of the village instantly became stern and serious. I took him to the hospital. Forgive me, Hokage-sama, if I had intervened a little earlier. Don't apologize. I'm sure you did your best, Itachi. 5 minutes later, both were already at Naruto's bed. How is his condition? Hiruzen called out to the medic who was bandaging the boy's wounds. Multiple bruises, contusions, abrasions, but no serious injuries. We checked. The Iryanin looked up from his work for a moment. No fractures, no concussion. The boy simply lost consciousness from the blows. He will recover soon. That's good, Hiruzen muttered. Oh, that Danzo. He really provided protection to the Jinchuriki. You shouldn't trust his people anymore. Meanwhile, the medic finished with Naruto's wounds. Now all he needs is peace, the man said, casting a contemptuous glance in the blonde's direction. Well, let's go, Itachi. The boy will be fine. Sarutobi and Uchiha left the hospital together. Hokage-sama, let me tell you something. Did something happen, Itachi? Yes. This concerns Naruto. Hiruzen prepared to listen. Hokage-sama, I saw Naruto already in the Uchiha quarter when I was returning home from a mission. I heard unfamiliar voices and immediately activated the Sharingan. Naruto ran away from those shinobi who attacked him and ended up in the quarter. But that's not the point. Itachi fell silent, apparently considering his next words. So what's the matter? The thing is, when Naruto was running away from those shinobi, I saw a Sharingan with one tomo in his eyes. The pipe fell out of the Hokage's mouth and hit the ground with a dull thud. However, Hiruzen was so shocked that he didn't even notice. What? Are you absolutely sure about this, Itachi? Absolutely. Sharingan gives the ability to see objects around you many times more clearly. Even in the dark, you can see very well with it. Naruto had a Sharingan, as you know, it is impossible to confuse with anything. Hiruzen's first thought was, did Kushina cheat on Minato with one of the Uchiha? He discarded that idea a second later. Naruto was very similar to the fourth. Of course, his father was Namikaze. But then how, where the hell did Naruto get the Sharingan? The Hokage also dismissed the eye transplant version. It was unlikely that anyone would need to perform such an operation on a small boy who, among other things, was not a carrier of the Uchiha genes. In addition, it is impossible to deactivate the Sharingan obtained in this way. However, Sarutobi began to seriously doubt the latter. It was also surprising that Naruto didn't pass out immediately after deactivating the Sharingan. It requires a lot of chakra, which a 4-year-old boy simply couldn't have. The fact that Uzumaki didn't immediately collapse from exhaustion was amazing. However, what was even more surprising was that Naruto awakened the Sharingan at 4 years old. Even Itachi, who was considered a true genius of the Uchiha clan, was able to awaken it only at 8. And Naruto, twice as soon. How the hell, how? Unless the fox helped. The Hokage's head was spinning from the pile of questions. We'll need to find out where Naruto got the Sharingan from, and at the same time check the integrity of the seal. But for now, Hiruzen leaned over and picked up his unfortunate pipe. The tobacco had scattered on the ground and had long since stopped smoldering, so the old man simply stuffed it into his coat pocket. Itachi, the Hokage addressed the teenager, from today on your task will be to watch Naruto. Communicate with him, help him, teach him to cope with household chores. And also, get more information from your clan about the methods of transmitting the Sharingan, but in such a way that no one finds out about it. Yes, Hokage-sama, the brunette bowed. And one more thing. This will be my request to you. Not as the head of the village, but as an ordinary person. The Hokage smiled. Naruto is smart beyond his years. Teach him the basics of ninjutsu and taijutsu, explain how to use the Sharingan, in general, teach him how to stand up for himself. But as for the Sharingan, don't tell anyone that the boy's dojutsu has awakened. And tell Naruto to hide this ability of his. He's a smart boy and will understand everything. We don't need any unnecessary questions. Okay, Hokage-sama, the guy was extremely serious. Actually, it was for this seriousness that was beyond his years that the Hokage loved Itachi. And one more thing, can I ask a question? Yes, of course. What did you want to know? Those shinobi, Hokage-sama, why don't you forbid them from touching Naruto? Hiruzen sighed. It will look too suspicious for the residents. And besides, no bans will change the attitude of ordinary residents towards Naruto. Despite all the decrees, there will be someone who will hate him so much that they will raise their hand against him. And the bans will only increase this hatred towards the boy as someone who is allegedly undeservedly under my care. The Hokage sighed. Itachi, you know who Naruto's father was, right? Yes. It was the 4th Hokage. That's right, Minato Namikaze, the yellow lightning of Konoha. You see, Minato wanted his child to be considered a hero. But Naruto is treated the exact opposite. And there's nothing I can do about it. So it's best if you help Naruto become stronger himself. Teach him to protect his own life. I'm counting on you. Yes, Hokage-sama. Itachi bowed once more and disappeared. Things didn't go well with the boy. It would be bad if Kyuubi got out of control due to another beating. We don't need another attack on the village. And still, where did he get the Sharingan? The Hokage was already near the residence. Old Sarutobi made a mental note to have a heart-to-heart talk with Danzo. The conversation would certainly not be pleasant, but at least the Hokage would finally discipline him for not properly guarding the Jinchuriki. Itachi quickly jumped from roof to roof. He needed to get to Naruto's apartment quickly in order to keep his mission a relative secret from the rest of Konoha. Even though his father would certainly find out about this mission sooner or later, it was better to be late than early. Uzumaki, sitting on Uchiha's back, told about his life. About how he was first raised in an orphanage. 6 months ago he was left to live alone in an apartment in a dormitory. 3 times a week, a guardian came to the boy, left food and some money from the Hokage, and did the cleaning. At first, Naruto had a hard time, but then he got used to it, and it was much easier to live alone. In the orphanage, children avoided him, older people always offended him. And no one ever invited him to play, although the boy sincerely tried to make friends with everyone. As a result, Naruto grew up on his own. The only person who treated him kindly until yesterday was the old Hokage. And the boy is very grateful to him for this. Itachi listened to Naruto tell him about his difficult life, with what respect he spoke about the Hokage, and at the same time thought about the conversation with the old man. Something didn't add up in the speech of the head of the village. Uchiha was always devoted to Konoha and was ready to make any sacrifice for it. But lately he began to doubt the sincerity of the Hokage's service to the village. And the last straw was Hiruzen's actual inaction after the attack on the Jinchuriki. In theory, he should be guarded like the apple of an eye, not allowing even a drop of hatred towards the villagers to arise in the boy, but instead he is left without any protection. The brunette turned his head slightly and glanced at Uzumaki out of the corner of his eye. So, the ban on touching Naruto will be suspicious for the villagers. There's something you're not telling me, Mr. Hokage. Chapter 3. In Naruto's apartment, or the necklace of the first Hokage. Naruto's apartment turned out to be larger than Itachi had expected. The boy thought that the child would be given slightly less living space. However, either out of respect for the now deceased fourth, or for other reasons, the blonde was given a pretty decent one-room apartment, which didn't even seem to need any repairs. Naruto got off the brunette's back and quickly pulled his sandals off his feet. Thank you very much for bringing it. Come in, Itachi-san. Uchiha frowned. Oh, I mean, Itachi. The brunette smiled at the corners of his lips. After all, Naruto, despite his seriousness, was still just a child. A sweet and naive child, similar to his brother, Sasuke. Uchiha took off his shoes and walked inside. Naruto's apartment was relatively clean. But Itachi noted to himself that the same guardian the boy had spoken of was doing her job extremely poorly. Judging by the dust in the corners, the trash under the bed, and the clothes that hadn't been washed for a long time, she tried not to stay at Uzumaki's for long. Uchiha glanced at the stove. There was a pot of drying, burnt noodles. The milk carton, which was on the table next to the stove, was already starting to smell. The product was definitely expired. Is this how you take care of a Jinchuriki? A serious case. We'll have to teach him to take care of himself as soon as possible, otherwise he'll be driven to the grave with such care. Naruto, tell me, what does Hiroko-san usually feed you? The boy thought for a moment. Well, porridge, ramen, rice sometimes. Clear. Itachi, oddly enough, was quite good at cooking. True, he didn't have to use this skill very often due to the numerous tasks that the genius of the Uchiha clan was given. So his talent was wasted. But at least now he found a worthy use for it. Looking at the pathetic semblance of food on the stove, the Uchiha had the idea to teach Naruto to make himself something better than boiled noodles and burnt porridge. Meanwhile, Naruto was clearly concentrating on something. After a while, he approached the brunette. Itachi. The boy almost added, San, but caught himself in time. Will you come again? A timid hope shone in Uzumaki's eyes. Itachi smiled at the corner of his lips. Naruto was definitely similar to Sasuke in his kawaiiness. Of course, I might even come to you every day. Naruto raised his eyebrows in surprise, as if he couldn't believe his luck, and then laughed happily. This is so great. Thank you very much, Itachi-san. I asked you to address me informally. Oh, Naruto immediately went quiet. Excuse me, I mean, you're not angry. No, I'm not angry. It's okay. By the way, Naruto, would you mind if I taught you how to cook at the same time? Yes, of course. The boy smiled broadly. I'm already sick of what Hiroko-san cooks, it's just impossible. The porridge is always tasteless, you can't eat it. I wanted to tell her once, but she called me a brat and then didn't show up for 4 days. It's good that there was food in the fridge, I had enough then. In that case, you need to learn how to cook even more. Naruto noticed Itachi staring at the unwashed dishes. He gasped and ran to the sink to wash them. He's still such a child. Uchiha continued to examine the boy's room. Naruto was definitely trying to keep it clean and tidy himself, but due to his restlessness, he couldn't concentrate on cleaning. In addition, he simply physically couldn't. For example, reach the top shelves, or even do all the work that an adult should do. Therefore, a thick layer of dust had accumulated in the corners, cobwebs hung on the ceiling, trash was lying around the bed. In general, the apartment was crying out for a general cleaning. But something caught Itachi's eye. On one of the shelves was a small tin box with a red spiral design on the lid and a small keyhole. It was perfectly clean, not a speck of dust. It had also clearly been opened often, judging by the fingerprints on the polished surface. Naruto, what kind of box is this? The boy, meanwhile, had already finished washing the dishes and approached the Uchiha. It's, well, basically, Uzumaki hesitated, as if he was thinking whether he should say it, but after looking into Itachi's eyes, he decided to do it. He reached into the shelf and pulled out a box. Naruto pulled out a small key from his pants pocket and unlocked it, then pulled out a small pendant by the string. The guy was, to put it mildly, amazed. Naruto held the legendary necklace of the first Hokage in his hand. A blue-green crystal in the middle and two metal beads on either side of it, there was no mistaking it. But, how? Where did he get? Beautiful, Itachi said out loud. Naruto wilted. This is all I have left from my mother. The boy sighed sadly. And I have nothing at all from my father. I never even had any photographs. No one ever told me about my parents, I don't even know their names. The Hokage only once said that they died on the same day I was born. Mom, during childbirth. Dad, in the battle with the Kyuubi. It's clear. So that's how it is. An interesting move. If Naruto doesn't find out anything about him being the fourth son, then by the time he comes of age, he will be able to use the inheritance that is rightfully his. After all, right now he is almost the only heir to all the property of the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. If I'm not mistaken, his parents owned a huge mansion and a bank account. If that's the case, then, I'll have to talk to him, but not now. Itachi came a little closer. He wanted to examine the pendant better. Do you mind if I take a look? Naruto held out the necklace. Uchiha carefully took it by the string and placed the crystal on his palm, examining it carefully. The stone was perfectly transparent, like glass, cool to the touch and smooth, but with slightly uneven edges. And then Itachi noticed near the base of the stone where the string was threaded through it, a thin, no thicker than a thread, and even black stripe. It seemed like nothing special, but Uchiha decided to play it safe and activated the Sharingan. As it turned out, the guy did it for a reason. It was impossible to tell with normal vision that the stripe, invisible to the eye, was actually a FUNN. Itachi examined the black ligature of symbols with his Sharingan. He did not understand their purpose, because he was not strong in Fuinjutsu, but he understood one thing for sure, only one person could do such filigree work. Kushina-san. This is amazing. To compress a seal visible to the eye to such a size is truly the height of skill. But what kind of technique is this? What did you want to seal? Uchiha decided to hold off on activating the seal for now, until he learned its properties. Hey, Itachi-san, what's wrong with your eyes? They're red, and there are 3 commas around the pupil. But the brunette had already forgotten that Naruto had never seen a dojutsu. This is the Sharingan, a genetic feature of my clan. What? It seemed that Uzumaki didn't get it. However, the boy was only 4. Naruto, do you know a lot about shinobi? Well, the blonde scratched the back of his head. I know about chakra, a little about hand seals, I read about Kekkei Genkai in one book. Have you ever heard of dojutsu? Naruto thought. No, I think. I see. Itachi felt that everything would have to be explained at length and in detail. The guy sighed. So, dojutsu is essentially the same Kekkei Genkai. That is, it is a special power of a shinobi that is passed down hereditarily. Only dojutsu is unique abilities of the eyes. For example, the Hyuga clan also has a dojutsu, the Byakugan. It allows them to see chakra and look through walls, and all this, at a huge distance. And my clan's dojutsu is called Sharingan. With its help, I can see very clearly at a short distance and predict the enemy's movements. Naruto was slightly overwhelmed by this amount of new information, but, having quickly grasped the essence, he joyfully exclaimed. It's great to have such abilities. I wish I had those too. So, he didn't understand what happened that night of the attack. I guess I'll have to explain it to him. Naruto, the brunette began from afar, I didn't want to bother you, but I need to ask you. Yesterday, when you were attacked, did you feel anything strange or unusual? The boy thought. No, nothing really, but I seem to remember. When those people drove me into a corner and started beating me, at some point I felt that my vision became very clear, and I saw all the movements as if slowed down, or something. Naruto, I saw that when you were running away from the shinobi, you had eyes like mine. You see, Naruto, you have the Sharingan too. The boy was stunned by this statement. He was, of course, smarter than most of his peers, but even for him, such difficult to understand information was too much. After a while, he said, that is, I have the same ability as you. You think correctly, Naruto. You have the same power as me, you just need to learn how to use it. Uzumaki thought again, and then said, Itachi-san, you're probably wrong. I've never had any power, I don't even know how to use chakra. You don't believe me. Uchiha looked closely into Naruto's eyes. He hesitated. Okay, let's do it this way, said the brunette. Do you have a mirror? Yes, in the bathroom. Let's go. In the bathroom, Itachi found a small mirror covered in splashes. That'll do. Naruto, this may be unpleasant for you, but try to remember what you felt when you were beaten. Remember it all in great detail and try to relive it. The Sharingan usually activates when a person experiences negative emotions. Naruto frowned. He closed his eyes and concentrated. Half a minute later, the blonde's eyes suddenly opened. Red iris. 1, around the pupil. Oh, really? Naruto stared at the mirror in amazement, examining his eyes in the reflection. Sharingan. The boy seemed to savor this word and continued to examine the eyes in the mirror. Itachi was surprised that Naruto had been keeping the Sharingan activated for several minutes now. And this despite the fact that it requires a colossal amount of chakra, and the boy is only 4, and he is using the dojutsu only for the second time in his life. Although, maybe it's because he has Uzumaki blood in him. They had a large amount of chakra. Or is it because he has the Kyuubi sealed in him? Either way, it doesn't explain how Naruto got the Sharingan. Itachi-san, Uzumaki said, continuing to look at his reflection, why do I have 1, near my pupil, and you have 3? Your Sharingan isn't fully developed yet, the guy explained. The number of commas can be from 1 to 3, and the more there are, the stronger the eyes are. Naruto, Itachi interrupted him, I see you have a lot of questions. But I simply can't answer them all. Let me bring you some book about dojutsu. Or better yet, several. If you don't understand something, ask me. Deal. Okay, the boy answered somewhat sadly. By that time, the Sharingan had already disappeared from both of them. Something wrong? No, it's just. Do you think that I don't want to answer your questions? That's not true, Uchiha patted the blonde on the head. I will not only tell you everything, I will teach you how to use the Sharingan. I will train you. Really? Naruto's eyes grew big in surprise. Of course, the brunette smiled with the corner of his lips. I will gradually teach you the art of shinobi. The boy almost squealed with joy. Is it true? Really? Itachi-san. That's great. Go lie down. You remember what the doctor said, right? Naruto pouted his lips in an offended manner. From the outside, it looked incredibly kawaii. The boy lay down on the bed. A moment later, a spark lit up his eyes and a mischievous smile flashed across his lips. Itachi-san, when is the training? Not until you're fully recovered. Rest for now. Uchiha patted the boy and then went to the exit, but turned around at the threshold. One more thing, Naruto. Don't tell anyone that you have a Sharingan. Why? You don't belong to the Uchiha clan. Having a Sharingan would raise too many questions. Will you get into trouble because of this? Well, you could say that, Itachi chuckled. I won't tell anyone, the boy promised. Well done. See you tomorrow, Naruto. I'll be back. Uchiha smiled, put on his sandals and walked out the door. He lingered outside for a moment, looking into the windows of Naruto's apartment. I think I'm starting to get attached to this boy. The boy headed towards his clan's quarter. He needed to complete the Hokage's assignment, report to his father, look at a couple of books for his new protege. And, of course, study with his younger brother. After all, Itachi doted on Sasuke. But the suspicion that the Hokage did not care about the village and the Jinchuriki in particular gnawed at the Uchiha's soul like a tiny worm. The brunette replayed yesterday's conversation with the old man over and over again, but could not find any clues. The sun was beginning to set. The day was drawing to a close. I'll definitely sort this out, Itachi thought, and then jumped onto the roof and ran towards his house. Chapter 4. Beginning of Training. What the hell, Danzo? Angry as a beast, Hiruzen nervously paced back and forth in the office, while the head of Root sat with an absolutely imperturbable face. I ask again. Why the hell, Danzo, didn't your people ensure the protection of the Jinchuriki? Are you trying to make the Kyuubi go uncontrollable? I have already punished all those who did wrong, Shimura answered calmly. I give you my word that such a situation will not happen again. Of course it won't happen again, the Hokage said sarcastically. I won't trust your people to guard the boy anymore. His protection is now the job of my Anbu. So that's it. Danzo frowned. You refuse to trust me. Exactly, Sarutobi snapped. And make a mental note that the Jinchuriki belongs to the entire village. He is its main weapon. And I am the head of Konoha, no matter how much you would like to change that. Therefore, I decide who will guard the boy and who will not. Aren't you afraid that you'll have to pay for your words? My people are trained no worse than yours. And besides, the common shinobi are clearly not on your side, Danzo. I doubt that you will be able to take my seat so easily. The head of Root chuckled hoarsely. That's why I love you, old fox. You've always had an iron grip. You never let go of what's yours, and especially not the Hokage post. Don't think that I'll fall for your flattery, the old man frowned. What about the Uchiha? The discord with the other clans is getting stronger and stronger. A little more and they will start a rebellion. That's what we need. The Hokage took a pipe out of his pocket, lit the tobacco and took a drag. Are you afraid that they might interfere with your power? So you're going to destroy them, like you destroyed Senju? Hiruzen released a cloud of pungent-smelling smoke. You're no less afraid of it. You're afraid that they might turn against you if you take my position. You're afraid that they might destroy you. Even your Anbu are powerless against the Sharingan, and you're well aware of that. That's why you're afraid. Danzo remained silent. And in vain, by the way, the Hokage continued, taking another drag. You've never been able to establish contacts with ordinary people. This is your main weakness. The locals are afraid of you, but they love and respect me. Even the Uchiha are mostly on my side. If you suddenly become Hokage, you'll be quickly thrown out, and even Root won't help. And I've held this post for many years, and no one complains. You shouldn't always rely on brute force, Danzo. You need to be softer. And you will still teach me, Hiruzen, the head of Root said through clenched teeth. You are lucky that our goals temporarily coincide. But remember, this will not last long. As soon as you stand in my way, I will destroy you. I know, the Hokage waved it off. Believe me, I'll be on my guard. You know, you're an interesting person. Sometimes it's even a pity that you and I aren't allies. Really, that flatters me a little, said Danzo. Limping to the exit of the office, the old man turned around. Be careful with your protege. With Itachi Uchiha, sooner or later, he will understand what you really are. You don't have to worry about that, Sarutobi chuckled. I've already figured out how to get rid of him if anything happens. The head of Root squinted at the old man who was calmly smoking by the window, and then silently disappeared through the door. The Hokage silently and sullenly watched him go. After all, they had known each other for so long that they understood each other perfectly and had no need to hide their true emotions and intentions. But sometimes both Danzo and Hiruzen began to regret a little that their friendship from childhood did not last until the present time. A week and a half flew by for Naruto unusually quickly. Itachi came for a short time, for an hour or two, but every day, which the boy was incredibly happy about. During each such visit, Uzumaki learned something new, and this is what kept him from getting bored during his forced stay in the apartment. The brunette was quite strict about the bed rest that was prescribed to the boy because, despite the fact that Naruto fully recovered in 4 days, Itachi rightly considered it necessary to let him fully recover after both activations of the Sharingan. On the very first day, Uchiha brought several books that told about the shinobi path in an accessible form and explained the meaning of most of the concepts associated with it, as well as a book about dojutsu, which also told about the Sharingan, which was written in a more complex language. Itachi was afraid that Naruto might not understand it, but the boy understood it perfectly in a week. On the same day, he showed Uzumaki how to meditate for the first time. Naruto could already feel his own chakra, but very weakly, and he did not know how to influence it in any way. Meditation was intended to improve Uzumaki's control over chakra. But the boy could not sit in one place for a long time, just staring at one point. Itachi-san, will this kind of training really help me become stronger? Naruto asked in surprise when Uchiha explained the basic principles of meditation to him for the first time. Yes, this is one of the main methods of training a ninja. But this is just sitting in one place. The boy began to protest. How will it make me stronger? I don't understand. Naruto, the basis of a shinobi's power is the control of one's own body's energy. Only thanks to it can we perform various techniques. And meditation is aimed at improving it. The blonde frowned comically. Itachi sighed. It looks like I'll have to explain it visually. Anyway, look, Naruto. The guy approached the wall and slowly began to climb up it. Uzumaki's eyes became huge in surprise. Wow, cool, how do you do that? I just concentrate chakra in my legs. All shinobi can do that. Will you teach me, Itachi-san? That's what I'm teaching you. Chakra control can only be achieved through meditation. I see, Naruto said disappointedly, but a second later he smiled thoughtfully. But if it's necessary, then it's necessary. From that moment on, Uzumaki began to meditate regularly every day. At first, the boy could only manage for about 10 minutes, then his concentration would be completely lost, but after some time he got used to it and could sit calmly for an hour. If Naruto wasn't meditating, he was reading. He strictly observed the ban on going outside, being very afraid of upsetting Itachi. Needless to say, Naruto had always dreamed of someone who would truly care for him, and now that this someone had appeared, he didn't want to lose him for anything. The blonde was so yearning for simple warmth that he perceived Itachi as almost a gift from heaven. The books, despite the abundance of unfamiliar words, turned out to be surprisingly understandable and fascinating. Naruto read them until dark. He tried to understand the chapters that were dedicated to the Sharingan especially carefully. Uzumaki decided for himself that he would learn as much as possible about the abilities of his eyes. Naruto, for example, found out that the Sharingan with 1 tomo only gives incredibly clear vision, with 2, the ability to predict the enemy's actions at the moment they begin to be performed and the ability to copy techniques, and with 3, also the ability to predict the enemy's actions in advance and use powerful genjutsu. The downsides of this dojutsu were the high chakra costs and general eye fatigue after using it. The Sharingan awakens after strong emotional experiences. Well, Naruto experienced this himself. But the fact that very strong emotions, for example, from the death of a loved one, are capable of awakening a special form of the Sharingan, which is much stronger than the usual one, the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto learned for the first time. However, after hearing from Itachi what people from the Uchiha clan did to gain this form, and that its use leads to blindness, Uzumaki did not want to awaken the Mangekyo. Despite the power that he could theoretically gain. However, it was too early to talk about the Mangekyo until Naruto awakens the 3rd tomo. And this, despite such an early activation of the Sharingan, should not happen very soon. The books on dojutsu that the blonde read also contained a set of exercises to strengthen the eyes. Itachi advised Naruto to do it regularly, every 1.5 to 2 hours, which the boy obediently did despite the lack of obvious results. Another item in the boy's daily routine was practicing hand seals. Having seen them in one of the books, Naruto begged Itachi to teach him how to do them. The Uchiha wasn't sure that a 4-year-old child would be able to handle hand seals, but his fears turned out to be false. It took only 2 full days to memorize the correct position of the fingers. Another 2 days to make Naruto stop confusing the names of the seals, much less than most of the academy students spend. Well, the rest was just a matter of practice. Itachi was convinced of the originality and genius of his protege. Needless to say, the son of the legendary Yellow Lightning of Konoha and the famous Bloody Habanero could hardly be less gifted than his parents. Although, most likely, an important and perhaps even decisive role was played by the fact that, when it came to learning the art of ninja, Uzumaki demonstrated amazing persistence and patience. This could not but please Itachi. However, despite all his success in theory, Naruto could not wait for the moment when he would start practicing. The long-awaited day has arrived. A week and a half has passed, and Itachi has finally decided to begin Naruto's physical training. He warned the boy in advance and the next day, half an hour before dawn, he took Naruto to train. There were no people on the streets at such an early hour, so both reached the abandoned training ground unnoticed. We'll start training in 40 minutes. In the meantime, look around. Do you remember the way? Yes. Itachi said about setting up training posts. The old ones that had once stood here had fallen into complete disrepair, and targets, while Uzumaki ran to explore the clearing. The training ground had long since been overgrown with grass, and its edges were hidden by thickets of bushes. And the training ground itself was located on the outskirts, in a grove on the very edge of the village, where almost no one went. One of the corners of the training ground was diagonally crossed by a ravine, in which a small stream with cool and clean water flowed. This stream flowed into the river that flowed near Konoha and passed along the border of the training ground territory. The area had been abandoned for a long time. The old training posts had long since rotted from the inside and were falling apart, eaten away by worms. The targets, or rather, their pitiful remains, were scattered on the ground. Here and there, rusted through kunai and shuriken could be found. Naruto tried to pick one up, but it crumbled into scales at the touch. Not 1, not even 2, not 3, not 10 years, more, had a human foot set foot here. Uzumaki ran around the entire area. It was difficult to understand where the grove ended and the training ground itself began, so the boy ran out into the forest several times. In one place, on the border with the site, Naruto came across a strange stone with a small indentation. The stone seemed quite ordinary, but in one place the blonde discovered a worn, almost imperceptible spiral pattern. This is all strange, the boy thought. Naruto. Oh, I completely forgot about the time. Uzumaki ran towards Itachi as fast as he could. It was surprising how the brunette managed to prepare the site so quickly. A small patch of land with a radius of 15 to 20 meters was completely cleared of grass. Naruto smelled something burning and saw scorched grass at the edges of the patch. Apparently, the Uchiha used some kind of fire technique. On one edge of the site there were training posts tied with even rows of ropes, and on the other, targets. Itachi-san, where did you get all this? You didn't have anything with you when we came here, Naruto asked in surprise, looking at one of the pillars, which was twice, if not more, taller than him. The guy smiled with the corner of his lips and took a scroll out of his pocket. Sealing technique. Usually, it is impossible to fit two large objects into a small seal, but the seal on this scroll was made by a master of Fuinjutsu, so both pillars and targets fit into it. Itachi decided to keep quiet for now about the fact that this scroll was given to him by Kushina Uzumaki, who was a close friend of his mother, Makoto, and a frequent guest at her house. The Uchiha thought that it was too early to tell Naruto about his parents. Will you teach me how to make these? The boy asked, making cute eyes. I am not an expert in seals, Itachi said. I can only teach you how to seal various weapons and other small objects into scrolls, nothing more. I see, Naruto said, slightly disappointed. Well, now let's move on to training. Uchiha changed the topic of conversation. You want to become strong as soon as possible, right? Yes, the blonde exclaimed joyfully. I can't wait to get started. What a child he is. Itachi thought, looking at Uzumaki's happy face. Sarutobi took a drag and leaned back in his chair. Any minute now, the Anbu he had sent to keep an eye on the Jinchuriki and the Uchiha were supposed to arrive in his office with a report. The Hokage was waiting for that report because he was impatient to know how Naruto's training was progressing. The old man considered a delay of a week and a half an unforgivable waste of time. However, Itachi knew better how to train the Sharingan. The Hokage had high hopes for the boy, a Jinchuriki of the Uzumaki clan, who also possessed the Sharingan. If the old man managed to make him loyal to him, Naruto could become his weapon in the fight against his opponents, and in particular against Orochimaru and Danzo. Recently, Hiruzen had begun to receive information about the connections between them, which greatly irritated the old man. The Hokage already dreamed of dealing with both of his enemies with one blow. Orochimaru. Sarutobi gritted his teeth in anger. His former student, one of the legendary Trinity, a brilliant scientist. He was able to dig up dirt on the Hokage, but the old man reacted in time. Orochimaru was declared a missing nin because of his experiments. Fortunately not all of them were harmless, and the man conducted many experiments on children left without relatives. Hiruzen himself was not against this, especially since the results of many experiments deserved attention, but Orochimaru was becoming more and more dangerous. And now it turns out that he is hanging out with Danzo. Bad, very bad for the Hokage. Two men in white masks entered the office, distracting the old man from his dark thoughts. Hokage-sama, Itachi Uchiha and the Jinchuriki headed to the grove. Apparently, they were going to train there. But we missed them. Missed it, the old man said in a calm voice, looking up at his subordinates. The Hokage's intense gaze made both of them tense up. And how, pray tell, did this happen? Forgive me, Hokage-sama, but we ourselves do not understand how this happened. They were both walking side by side, and then it was as if they disappeared into thin air. We could not even find their tracks. Is that so? Sarutobi blew out a cloud of smoke. Well, I see. I suppose they went to that grove. Yes, Hokage-sama. Then it's not your fault that you missed them, the old man sighed. You are free. Continue your observation. Yes. The Anbu disappeared, leaving Sarutobi in deep thought. Itachi was a genius. There was no doubt about that. But the fact that he could single-handedly bypass the Fuinjutsu that hid the mysterious training ground 11 was beyond comprehension. For decades, the best minds in Konoha had been struggling to figure out how to break the seal that protected it. However, the Hokage had an idea who could really help Itachi break the FUNN. Even though this person was dead, he could leave clues, leads, or, in the end, give Itachi the key to the seal. Damn you, Kushina. Chapter 5. A smile and slightly dark thoughts. This was truly serious, difficult training for Naruto. The boy wanted to learn a new technique before Itachi returned from another mission at all costs. But time was running out, and the blonde could not bring the combination to perfection, no matter what. However, Uzumaki was not one to retreat in the face of difficulties. Therefore, he repeated the same movements over and over again, trying to finally perform the technique that he so wanted to learn. After another unsuccessful attempt, the boy wiped the sweat from his face with his hand and sat down, leaning against a tree. I'll take a little rest and then continue. Itachi-san will be back tomorrow, so I have some time. It was incredibly quiet at Training Ground 11. As it always was. Naruto simply adored this place. Silence, peace, no one ever tries to bother you. In a word, beauty. In fact, no one had tried to attack Naruto for the last year and a half. Not a single villager. And all thanks to training from Itachi. The boy had learned to defend himself in 2 years, but tried, as Uchiha advised him, not to show himself. Instead, he easily avoided any fight. Fortunately, his good reaction and well-trained body allowed it, and his look, full of strength and self-confidence, perfectly knocked down the fighting spirit of most hooligans. So Uzumaki's life became much calmer with the arrival of the brunette. But most of all, Naruto was grateful to Itachi for telling him about his parents and how they died. Now the boy could be proud of the fact that his father was the great fourth Hokage who saved Konoha, and his mother was an unrivaled master of seals. And even Itachi's words about Naruto being sealed with the Kyuubi did not bring pain. On the contrary, Uzumaki considered it an honor to be the one who restrains the enormous power of the Biju for the sake of the village. As Naruto's trust in Itachi grew, so did his trust in the Hokage. The boy began to notice that he was being constantly watched. In the old man's voice, in his words, he sometimes felt falsehood. And when Itachi explained to Naruto why the boy had not been told about his parents, the Uzumaki's trust in the village leader disappeared completely. And now he spoke to the Hokage, choosing his words with the utmost caution and never revealing his thoughts. And more often Naruto went to the training ground, because he knew, no one except him and Itachi could get there. There would be no surveillance there. Even the Hokage himself would not get to him there. There he could train, become stronger. The blonde decided it was time to end the break. He stood up, brushed the grass blades off his pants, and took out a few training shurikens, Itachi's gift, from a box lying nearby. The targets stood in a neat, even row. But today the boy's target was not them, but the rubber dummies that Uchiha had obtained. Uzumaki started the connection. At the same time as the Sharingan was activated, the boy took 3 shurikens in each hand. At the very moment when Naruto's eyes turned red and one tomo appeared in them, the blonde deftly threw all the shurikens at once. The weapons hit 2 dummies, exactly 1 star between the eyes, in the chest and stomach. The Sharingan, even being at the first, weakest stage of development, allowed him to throw with incredible accuracy and speed for a 6-year-old boy. Before the shurikens had time to stick in, Naruto was already near the 3rd dummy. The blonde quickly performed a series of blows, with his right foot to the groin, with his fists to the stomach, then with his right hand a punch under the jaw and finishing with his right foot with a spin to the chest, he jumped back and threw 2 more shurikens in flight, which stuck in the stomach and neck. Landing, Uzumaki was already forming a seal for shadow cloning. He created 2 doubles, fortunately, more was not required for the connection. Naruto had a lot of chakra, enough for several hundred clones, but the boy did not see the point in wasting his strength thoughtlessly. Naruto and his copy quickly ran to the 4th dummy from one side, the second double came in from the other side in a wide arc. The clones moved absolutely identically, like mirror images of each other. When they were literally a couple of meters away from the rubber figure, the doubles, one on each side, jumped forward, simultaneously pushing off the ground with their hands. Already in flight, having assumed a horizontal position and turned sideways in the air, the copies struck from both sides, one in the lower back, the second, in the chest of the dummy. Naruto himself threw a kunai at the head in a jump. A cracking sound was heard. The rubber figure tore slightly above the waist, and at the same time, a kunai entered right between the mannequin's eyes. Naruto dispelled the clones and looked at the result of his training. Not fast enough. We need to go faster. Are you wasting inventory again? I won't have enough money if you keep ruining the mannequins at this rate. A mocking voice was heard from the edge of the platform. Itachi-san, are you here already? But you were only supposed to come back tomorrow. Uzumaki happily jumped up and ran to the brunette. Itachi smiled faintly. My group neutralized the gang earlier than expected. Well, you're an Anbu now, right? Many people at this age are just finishing the academy, and you've already made it into the best, strongest squad. That's great. Itachi didn't answer. The boy buried his face in his stomach and hugged him tightly. I missed you so much. Naruto almost whispered. I know. Uchiha patted the blonde on the head. You trained well. I saw how you work. Well done. Thank you. Uzumaki was happy. Let's go home, Naruto. You're probably tired by now, and I wouldn't mind resting either. Okay, Itachi-san. The boy ran to collect the equipment left after training. Today was definitely a wonderful day. The weather was beautiful and sunny, the new technique was almost perfected, and Itachi returned a day early. And even the Anbu surveillance, which Naruto was well aware of, couldn't spoil his mood. Only Uchiha himself was very, very thoughtful. Testing Ground 11 was the most mysterious, legendary place in Konoha. Not a single villager, from civilians to Anbu, elders and Hokage, knew what was hidden behind the grove and barrier surrounding the clearing. Polygon 11 was truly an ideal training ground. No one had been there for many, many years. And the polygon itself was so far away from the others that no one could have appeared there by accident. It would be a different matter if someone was going to come here on purpose. But even in this case, a solution was invented, Fuinjutsu, a barrier that protects the training ground, and it is so powerful that no one has been able to get around it for many years. Kushina showed Itachi this place when he was only 4. The boy followed a woman into the grove when she told his mother that she was going to train. Itachi was dying to see her train, but he couldn't reach the training ground, even though he kept his eyes on Kushina and followed her step by step. It was as if Uzumaki had disappeared into thin air one fine day, and Uchiha couldn't understand anything. He wandered around the grove for several hours until the fourth's wife found him. Then she explained that the training ground was protected by a powerful Fuinjutsu, and only people from the Uzumaki and Senju clans could pass through it. Itachi was upset, but the woman said that those with a special seal could also pass. Kushina gave him one on the condition that he wouldn't tell anyone that he had been there, not even his father and mother. After thinking about it, the boy agreed. What Itachi saw at the training ground, to put it mildly, disappointed him. He absolutely did not understand why they needed to protect a place that could not even be called a training ground with such a powerful and complex barrier. No normal training pillars, no targets, basically just a clearing. Kushina then laughed and said that it was easier to practice seal techniques here, for which neither pillars nor targets were needed. Itachi realized that this was not the case at all, and asked to explain the true purpose of the training ground. The woman instantly became serious and replied that she would not tell him for now, but another time, later, when Itachi grew up, she would tell him. There was no other time. Kushina died during the Kyuubi attack on Konoha, the same day that her son was born. Makoto wanted to take the boy to her, but the Hokage forbade it, citing that he was the son of the fourth, and since Minato had enemies, the Uchiha could suffer because of the child, which the head of Konoha, of course, cannot allow. Itachi, who was deeply upset by Kushina's death, did not believe the old man's sincerity. At 5 years old, he was already smart and serious enough to understand how important the power of the Jinchuriki was for the village, and to realize that this power could be used by individuals for their own purposes. Itachi decided to sort everything out at all costs and to help Kushina's son. In the time that had passed since the woman's death, Uchiha had graduated from the academy in a little over a year, received a Chunin vest, and became one of the Hokage's confidants. In fact, he had sought to gain the trust of the head of Konoha, to find out his true intentions. However, in order to gain access to secret documents that could somehow compromise Sarutobi, he needed to become an Anbu, and for this, to raise his rank to Jonin. Therefore, Itachi himself trained a lot. But not at training ground 11. It brought back too many memories. Despite his outward lack of emotion, Uchiha did not want to stir up the past, too painful. But when Itachi needed a place where he could train Naruto without unnecessary noise and prying eyes, there was no better place than training ground 11. No surveillance could find them here. The barrier hid chakra perfectly, did not let in sounds, did not let strangers pass, and in a rather peculiar way, people simply began to wander around the grove and could not get closer to the training ground even if they walked straight, without turning. Apparently, the FUNN somehow distorted space, not allowing passage. And so for the second year in a row, Itachi watched Naruto's training. On the very first day, Itachi noticed 2 Anbu following them all the way to the edge of the barrier. It was a bad sign. The Hokage did not fully trust him, since he was sending other people to watch Naruto. The Uchiha decided to be more careful with the old man in the future and not give him any reason to doubt himself. He began to compile rather detailed reports on the boy's training, and justified the chosen location by the need to maintain peace in the village. Few would be happy that a demon was being trained by one of Konoha's best shinobi. However, Itachi was unable to avoid a conversation with the Hokage. Did you call, Hokage-sama? The brunette bowed politely. Hiruzen put the pipe aside. Yes, I did, the old man said thoughtfully, looking at the report sheet. I just want to ask you. I understand that you sincerely care about the peace of the residents of Konoha. Yes, Naruto needs to be trained in a secluded place. But why exactly training ground 11? And, what is much more interesting to me, how? Itachi paused for a moment, considering his answer. The situation was almost a stalemate. Should he talk or not? If he told about the seal, the Hokage would definitely want to study it. Although, it would hardly be so easy to deal with the Fuin that Kushina Uzumaki, an unrivaled master of Fuinjutsu, had placed. So the Uchiha made up his mind. A long time ago, Kushina-san gave me a seal to enter the training ground. I was 4 years old then, and I wanted to see what was on the training ground. This seal, apparently, is invisible, since for several years not a single person from my clan noticed it, even when using the Sharingan. The Hokage picked up the phone and silently began to turn it over in his hands, deep in thought. Believe me, there's nothing there that would interest even civilians, let alone any shinobi, Itachi answered politely. Do you really think so? The old man raised an eyebrow. Yes, Hokage-sama, I checked several times, there are no hiding places, no storage facilities with artifacts, or anything else of that sort. The most ordinary clearing. Maybe something important was stored there at one time, but now it is empty. Apparently, they simply did not remove the barrier or were unable to. Let's say, the old man leaned his elbows on the table and clasped his fingers in front of him. You explained quite convincingly why there is such a barrier around the training ground and how you were able to get through it. But how was Naruto able to get through then? I'm not sure, Hokage-sama, but it's entirely possible that Kushina-san or Minato-san used this seal as part of the Fuin they used to seal the Biju. Itachi, I trust you completely. But where is the guarantee that you really told me everything? You can test me with the truth seals, Itachi answered calmly. For about half a minute, the village head and the Chunin looked into each other's eyes. Well, I believe you, the Hokage sighed. You can go. Yes, Hokage-sama, the brunette disappeared from the office. It seems to have worked. Itachi managed to become a Jonin and join the ranks of Anbu in 2 years. It would seem that the Hokage's trust in him had increased, but Uchiha noticed Naruto being followed from time to time. And the brunette could not decide what to do about it. And there was no way to get to the old man, he was too cautious, the old fox. Although now that Itachi had become a member of Anbu, there was a good chance to dig up dirt on Sarutobi. However, the guy had not yet had the opportunity to realize this chance. Meanwhile, discontent with Konoha's leadership grew in the ranks of the Uchiha clan. Itachi spoke with his father, tried to somehow soften the anger of his clanmates, but he could not. Things were heading towards a rebellion. And Itachi understood perfectly well that if the rest of the Uchiha were not stopped in time, the fate of the clan could repeat the fate of the Senju clan. And more often Itachi thought about how to protect Sasuke and Naruto if something happens. And how to resist Sarutobi and Danzo. Chapter 6. New Acquaintances. Naruto was sitting on a swing in front of the academy. The weather was just perfect. Warm, sunny, a nice light breeze was blowing. Beautiful. The boy decided to put off training for today and just go for a walk. Uzumaki finally wanted to go to Ichiraku and eat his favorite ramen. Due to constant training at Training Ground 11, he sometimes did not have the strength or time to go to the eatery. Old man Tuki was, as always, very kind and even gave an extra portion of noodles for free. So Naruto was in a great mood. After paying for the lunch, Tuki, out of kindness, took less money than he was supposed to. Uzumaki decided to sit on the swing in front of the Ninja Academy. It was pretty calm and quiet. It was until a crowd of kids, Naruto's age, burst onto the playground. The blonde tensed up a little. After Itachi's appearance, Uzumaki did not feel a special need to communicate with children his age. It was always interesting and fun with the brunette. Besides, Uchiha constantly trained him, helping him become stronger. And even though Itachi could not communicate with Naruto every day, it was enough for the boy. But still, every time he saw a crowd of his peers, Uzumaki constantly felt an incomprehensible anxiety. He may not have fully realized it, but he wanted these guys and the rest of the villagers to recognize him not as a demon, but as the same as them, an equal resident of Konoha. The children, seeing Naruto, began to whisper. This is the same boy. My mother forbids me to communicate with him. She doesn't even allow me to approach him. Why? He's a demon. This boy. Yeah, it's better if we just don't talk to him. Yes, let's play shinobi. Come on, come on. The boys started chatting. It became very noisy. Naruto continued to sit on the swing and look at the children. His soul became a little sad. The children split into groups and ran away. Uzumaki was left alone on the playground. Hey, why didn't you go play? Naruto jumped in surprise and turned around. Behind him stood a girl about his age with blonde hair and green eyes, wearing a small purple dress, and was looking at him with curiosity. Uzumaki was very surprised. Well, why didn't you go? Asked the boy, not wanting to answer the question that was unpleasant for him. The stranger shrugged her shoulders vaguely. I'm a little late, and besides, I didn't really want to play. Shikamaru isn't here, and I'm not that interested in talking to the others. So, will you answer my question? Naruto looked at the girl carefully. She clearly didn't show hostility, rather the opposite, she sincerely wanted to get acquainted. She smiled very sweetly, and Uzumaki thought that he could definitely become friends with her. How can I say? The blonde scratched the back of his head. Usually parents forbid their children to play with me. And they treat me like. In general, they don't like me. I don't know why, but I don't like it, and one day I will change the residents' opinion of me. Oh, so you're the boy they call a demon? The girl asked in surprise. She tilted her head and looked at Naruto for a couple of seconds. And, in my opinion, you're a very ordinary boy. And even better than those upstarts who like to bully others. And I don't care what they call you, I'd like to talk to you. The blonde's soul warmed. Thank you, he smiled, slightly touched. What's your name? I am Yamanaka Ino. And I am Uzumaki Naruto. Will we be friends? Yes. It turned out to be fun with Ino. Naruto didn't think that after a week of communication he wouldn't be able to imagine a day without a walk with Yamanaka. The girl was always in a good mood and always smiled, and Uzumaki also felt joy from this. The anxiety at the sight of his peers disappeared, and Naruto never thought about it again. Itachi reacted positively to the boy's new acquaintance. The only thing he asked the blonde was not to talk about the Sharingan and everything related to Training Ground 11. Naruto did a great job of fulfilling this request, and the rest was not that important to him. Training, of course, was not forgotten. On the contrary, Uzumaki trained many times harder to become strong enough to protect Ino. However, the girl herself was no slouch. She belonged to one of the most famous clans of Konoha, or, to be more precise, she was the daughter of the head of the Yamanaka, and she, of course, was trained very seriously. A couple of times Naruto and Ino sparred with each other, and they ended in a draw, although, to be honest, Uzumaki simply could not attack at full strength, because he did not want to fight against the girl and his friend. Sometimes the guys trained together. They practiced throwing kunai and shurikens, practiced punches, or simply improved their physical fitness. Naruto began visiting Ichiraku not alone, but with Ino. Tsuki laughed at this, but increasingly began to put in an extra portion at the house's expense. To be honest, Uzumaki was happy about this, since the pocket money that the Hokage gave him was not much. But he did not spare anything for his friend. The only thing Naruto was really afraid of was that Yamanaka would be treated badly because of him. The villagers' opinion of the boy had not changed one iota, the same hatred. But Uzumaki was not particularly worried about himself, he was afraid for his friend. However, Ino didn't give a damn about the opinions of others. So what? She usually said in response to Naruto's words about how others might start to treat her badly because of him. They just don't understand anything. Is it worth communicating with those who call a person a demon, knowing absolutely nothing about him? They just like to bully others, that's all. I'm friends with you and I know that you're a very good person, and many don't even have a clue what they're talking about. So I'm not afraid, especially since mom and dad don't forbid me to communicate with you, so everything is fine. The girl smiled cheerfully and patted Naruto on the shoulder, and that was where all such conversations ended. Uzumaki thanked the heavens for such a friend. It was warm today. Even though the sun had already set, Naruto continued training on the training ground. The boy was tired, but not that much. However, he did not plan to overexert himself. When the sky turned a deep blue-black and the stars became clearly visible, the boy collected all the throwing iron from the platform and sealed it in a scroll. Uzumaki had only recently mastered this technique, but he was already actively using it to get his hand in. Having put the small scroll in his pocket, the boy quickly and almost silently ran through the grove towards the house. Drag her faster. A voice sounded near the border between the grove, the clearing in front of it and the fence that surrounded Konoha. Naruto shuddered, froze and slowly moved towards the source of the sound. In the dim moonlight he saw two shinobi who were carrying a tied-up girl. Or rather, at the moment they were standing and examining her. What have you done, idiot? A dead brat is of no use to us. The first shinobi almost screamed in anger. She was struggling, so I knocked her out so she wouldn't get in the way, the second one justified himself. Do you understand how much the cloud needs the Byakugan? We need our village to have its own branch of the Hyuga. Do you realize how much this will strengthen our village, you idiot? We've been given a very important mission. And if you accidentally kill a girl, the mission will fail, do you understand that? I understand, the second one muttered in response. I'll be more careful next time. Okay, let's get out of here quickly before anyone notices. After all, this girl is the heiress of the main branch, her disappearance will soon be noticed. Naruto was feverishly thinking about what to do. He couldn't handle two adult shinobi alone, that was as clear as day. But the girl had to be saved. And Uzumaki couldn't think of anything better than to lure them into the grove and bring them to the edge of the barrier around the training ground. There he would have an advantage. Because of the Fuinjutsu, the enemies would not see him, while he would be able to freely throw various throwing iron at them. He would most likely not be able to cause serious harm, but he would certainly be able to distract the shinobi and give the girl time to wake up and run away. Well, that was good, and besides, the disappearance of the heiress of the main branch had probably already been noticed. Naruto activated his Sharingan. He quickly pulled out a scroll from his pocket, unsealed the pocket with kunai and put it on his leg, quickly tying the ends of the ribbon. He took two shurikens in each hand. The noise from the equipment and the clanking of metal were quiet, but the shinobi still heard them. I'll check what's there. Stay here and keep an eye on the girl, said the first one, cautiously approaching the grove. The second one nodded silently and quickly examined the ropes on the girl's hands and feet. The knots were strong. They couldn't be untied. Naruto waited until his opponent was close enough, and with a quick movement threw shurikens from both hands at once. One left a deep scratch on the shoulder of the first shinobi, two flew at the second who safely dodged another, describing a smooth arc, pierced the knot in the rope that tied the girl's hands, and cut it. However, Uzumaki immediately revealed himself. Damn, there's some kid there. We need to get rid of him. Come here, help me catch him. And the girl. We'll hide him in the grove. We'll quickly deal with that little one and take him away. The shinobi rushed after Naruto. The boy quickly ran to the training ground, knowing full well that only there would he be able to fight them on equal terms. As he ran, he took out kunai and threw them at his opponents, but despite his activated Sharingan, he never hit them. The enemies were catching up, breathing down his neck. There was still quite a decent distance to the training ground, and the shinobi had almost caught up with the blonde. Damn, won't I make it in time? I'll have to fight. I need to buy more time. After another jump, the pocket with kunai fell to the ground with a plaintive ringing sound. The tape was too loosely tied. Naruto continued running. There was no time to go back and pick up the missing item. Uzumaki remained unarmed. A minute later he found himself cornered, without even having time to reach the training ground. He's still a brat, drawled one of the attackers, looking at the boy. Decided to play the hero, huh? Hey, he seems to be that very Jinchuriki, said the second, peering into the boy's face. If we take him, will the Raikage be pleased? You bet, said the first one, rubbing his hands contentedly. But he'll pay for my wound, the little bastard. Naruto lunged forward, aiming to strike one of the attackers in the groin, but the shinobi reacted quickly and easily threw the blonde back. Uzumaki hit his head hard on the trunk, and his vision swam. Are you snapping, creature? Well, it won't last long. Soon we'll make silk out of you and that bitch, the man hissed angrily, approaching Naruto. No, I don't want to die. And I don't want that girl to die too. I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. Uzumaki suddenly felt a surge of strength and some strange inspiration. His eyesight cleared. The boy stood up and, obeying an inner impulse, threw both hands forward. Strange wooden bands appeared from his fingers and in the blink of an eye tied up the shinobi who did not expect such a turn of events. What the, was all one of them managed to say before Naruto sent his chakra into the ground. Trees began to grow rapidly around the men, and both found themselves buried alive inside their trunks. Naruto dropped his hands, trying to comprehend what had happened. He didn't understand what he had done, what power he had used, how he had even defeated these shinobi. Fatigue spread through his body. Uzumaki had spent quite a lot of chakra on those strange techniques and felt exhausted. But he found the strength to reach the girl those shinobi were trying to kidnap. Hey, are you okay? Naruto asked, gently patting the blue-haired girl on the cheeks. The girl slowly opened her huge pale purple eyes. Where am I? She said in a quiet, thin voice. It's okay, you're in Konoha. You're safe now, those shinobi have been defeated. Really? Thank you, the girl muttered, terribly embarrassed and blushing. You're welcome, the blonde said, smiling. What's your name? Hinata Hyuga. And I am Naruto Uzumaki. The sound of footsteps and shouts could be heard in the distance. Hinata, please don't tell anyone that I was here, okay? I beg you, don't tell. Naruto said quickly, looking around. The girl raised her eyebrows in surprise. But why? Why you saved me? It has to be that way. Don't tell. Okay, Hyuga muttered. Uzumaki smiled and disappeared behind the trees. Already far from the girl, he heard anxious cries of, Hinata-sama. Are you okay? Are you okay? Now the boy finally stopped worrying about her. Having gone around the grove in a wide arc, Naruto ran out on the other side and ran home as fast as he could. Tomorrow he decided to meet Itachi and tell him everything. The brunette would definitely be able to understand what kind of power the boy had used. Chapter 7. Wood Element. Commentary on Chapter 7. Element of Wood. Hello, my dear readers. Before publishing a new chapter, I would like to make a short appeal. Forgive me, please. I've been dragging my feet with the continuation. I promised, and didn't post it. Forgive me for that, but I couldn't even get to the computer for weeks, let alone post the continuation. The first year at Moscow State University, it's terrible. I didn't think I'd be so busy. Once again, forgive me. Now I want to thank everyone who wrote positive reviews, put likes, even gave me a moral kick. You can't imagine how nice it is, when you go to FANFIC for the first time in many days, and there are a bunch of nice words, demands for a comment. A huge thank you to you, readers. It's really worth working for people like you. It's good that I have you. And in conclusion I want to say a couple more words. To my great regret, I am really very busy, so the sale will be released rarely. Perhaps only once a month, but I will try very hard to write chapters as often as possible. Thank you for your attention and enjoy reading. Your Rising Phoenix and GT, _ and LT. The whole village was talking about the failed kidnapping of the heiress of the Hyuga clan. No one knew who the mysterious savior of the girl was, just as no one knew what happened to the kidnappers. According to the available information, the Jonin assumed that the shinobi were from the hidden cloud, and they were right, because towards the end of the next day, angry envoys from Kumo showed up and demanded the return of their warriors, threatening to start a war. However, what is not there is not there. The Konoha people themselves did not know where those shinobi had disappeared to, and even if they had known, they still would not have given them up, and the delegation, having spent several days in the leaf, returned with nothing. Itachi, as an Anbu, was involved in the investigation and could not communicate with Naruto at least a little. And Uzumaki was eager to find out in more detail what kind of technique he used in that fight. In the scrolls and books that the boy had, there was no mention of such strange techniques, and the blonde was lost in conjecture and burning with curiosity. By the way, Naruto tried to repeat the technique he used against those shinobi from Kumo. Time after time, he remembered and tried to reproduce all his actions that he performed at that moment, even scrolled through his emotions and feelings in his head, but for a long time he could not achieve the result he needed. Wooden ribbons did not appear, trees did not grow from the ground. In his attempts to learn how to use that technique, the blonde even harnessed clones to speed up the process, as many as more than 100, but still suffered a fiasco day after day. Uzumaki despaired of repeating this technique after 2 weeks of fruitless efforts, as after one of the training sessions he was able to create several small wooden ribbons. This could definitely be considered a success, and Naruto decided to consolidate it with daily training. Hey Naruto, who do you think saved the Hyuga heiress? Ino suddenly asked as the two of them were having lunch at Ichiraku as usual. The blonde almost choked on his ramen. Well, he said vaguely, I don't know. I think it was probably one of the strong shinobi, the girl said thoughtfully, picking up a piece of meat with her chopsticks. To single-handedly defeat 2 elite enemy ninja and escape without leaving any traces. What? No leads at all? Uzumaki asked cautiously. None, the blonde sighed. My father, however, said that they found some kind of pocket for kunai there. Damn, Naruto cursed under his breath. If they could figure out who owned it. But there was a downpour that day and it washed away all traces and smells, Ino continued, so it will no longer be possible to determine the owner. Uzumaki remembered that it had really rained heavily the night after he had saved Hinata. The boy thanked the heavens for such a generous gift. After all, if it weren't for that, the Hokage's men would have started pestering Naruto. Well, then it wasn't meant to be, the blonde smiled. It's unlikely that a person who saved the heiress of one of the Konoha clans would be hostile to the village, so there's no point in looking for him like that. Oh, didn't I tell you? Ino suddenly remembered. That man used the wood release technique, that's why they're looking for him. Wood element? Uzumaki asked again. What kind of element is that? Aren't there only 5? So that's what those wooden strips were. I don't know much about it, Yamanaka thought for a moment, but it's a Kekkei Genkai. It's quite rare and very powerful. The Senju clan possessed it. The same one that died out a couple of decades ago. Naruto was surprised. You know your history well, Ino noted. Yes, the one that almost completely died out after a small epidemic and an uprising against the authorities. And the first Hokage also had this ability, well, that is, the wood release. They say that with its help he could single-handedly resist an entire army of opponents and even subjugate the Biju. Subdue the Biju? The blonde asked, amazed. Yes, he was very nervous, because as a Jinchuriki, control over the Biju was vital for him. Itachi warned Uzumaki that one day, when Naruto was older, he would sooner or later come into contact with the Kyuubi, and it would try to take over his mind. It was extremely difficult to resist the enormous, inhuman power of the Biju, but if the blonde owned a Kekkei Genkai that could subdue the tailed beasts, then... Yeah, the girl nodded. After all, the heiress of one of the strongest clans of Konoha had the upbringing and education that corresponded to her status. So it's a very strong ability. They say that the first Hokage could easily control any Biju, and even the strongest one, the Nine Tails. Uzumaki froze for a split second with a shocked expression on his face. It's a good thing Ino didn't notice. Well, Naruto said after a short pause. Now it's clear why they're looking for that unknown person so hard. They want to use his abilities. As for me, it's strange to hide such power, Yamanaka said. As far as I know, there isn't a single shinobi capable of using wood release. Kekkei Genkai are very rare, and Mokuden is rare even among them. And someone who has such power. They'll snatch you up, right? The blonde grinned. They'll probably use you for experiments, with genes like those. Oh, come on. Ino waved her hand. You're gloomy. Sometimes I just look at things soberly. Don't take all this seriously. Naruto smiled, watching Yamanaka frown. Let's go for a walk instead. Okay. The blonde easily agreed, putting aside the empty plate. But you'll be paying for the ramen. Uzumaki smiled and took out his wallet. Damn it, can't a whole group of elite warriors find just one person? Sarutobi threw the report away in rage. And you call this Anbu? You don't know how to do anything. Sorry, Hokage-sama, the man in the mask bowed guiltily. Because of the rain, we couldn't find the owner of that thing by smell, and the tracks on the ground. I don't care. The old man hissed angrily. You must find the owner of the Mokuden as soon as possible. That's it, you're free to go. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Anbu member bowed and disappeared. The village chief sat down and leaned on his bent arms, clasping his fingers. Someone from Senju. But the clan was wiped out long ago, and Princess Tsunade does not possess Mokuden. Another victim of Orochimaru's experiments. No, all the children who were guinea pigs for the snake Sanin are dead. Except for Tenzo, of course, but he is already under the Hokage's supervision. Moreover, at the time of the attack on Hyuga, he was with a man loyal to Sarutobi and could not stop the enemy shinobi. Then who the hell is hiding such power? Who is hiding their Mokuden abilities? The Hokage frowned. If one of the Anbu hadn't noticed a piece of cloth sticking out of the trunk of a seemingly ordinary tree, those two shinobi from Kumo, or rather, their bodies would never have been discovered. A powerful technique, nothing to say. Powerful, and therefore deadly without proper control. It was necessary to find the owner of this power and take him under observation, or better yet, make him a loyal dog. I'm sure Danzo is doing the same thing right now, Hiruzen thought gloomily, lighting his favorite pipe. The main thing is not to lose the initiative. The main thing is not to lose the initiative. Continue searching. Grab any clue, do not miss a single chance. To strengthen our organization, we need Mokuden. Get it at any cost. Yes, Danzo-sama. The three root shinobi bowed and disappeared silently. Shimura walked into his office and unrolled a small scroll. So who's going to come out on top this time? Huh, Hiruzen, were similar, if you think about it. Itachi was able to free himself only a month after the incident with the shinobi from Kumogakure. The investigation yielded no results. Even the elite Anbu were unable to find traces of the unknown, because a heavy rain washed them all away. The Hokage raged and raged, but he was powerless in such a situation. The only clue could, perhaps, be a small pocket for kunai that Uchiha found in the forest, but the rain washed away the smells from it, and it was almost impossible to determine the owner by appearance. So, due to lack of evidence, the investigation was closed 3 days after it began. After that, there were a couple of rather difficult missions, which took a little over 3 weeks in total. When Itachi reported to the Hokage after completing them, the Hokage mentioned that he wanted to make Uchiha the head of the Anbu squad. Well, this gave more opportunity to gather information, but the risk also became greater. The attention paid to the heads of the squad is much higher than to the rank and file. But Itachi was ready to take the risk. For the sake of the village, for the sake of his family, for the sake of Sasuke and Naruto. After getting off work, Itachi first visited his family and his most beloved little brother. Sasuke was incredibly happy that Ni-san found some time to spend with him. The boy was genuinely amused and wanted Itachi to train him at least a little, to which he half-jokingly waved him off and said the usual, sorry. Another time. However, even in such mundane, domestic moments, Itachi remained serious all the time. Not so much because the investigation had yielded no results, although that was also the case, but because the unrest in the Uchiha clan was growing stronger. The conspiracy was growing, and the teenager realized that he was no longer able to stop the events. Itachi-san, Uzumaki was practicing throwing kunai when Uchiha came to the training grounds late in the evening. Smiling happily at his senpai, the blonde leaned his back tiredly against a tree, sat down and blissfully closed his eyes. Not bad, Naruto, the brunette said approvingly, examining the targets. Almost all the kunai were sticking out exactly from their centers, but a few times the boy slightly missed, and the weapon stuck closer to the inner circles drawn on the targets. Were you able to free yourself? You were supposed to participate in the investigation, weren't you? The investigation was closed due to insufficient evidence, Itachi replied. I can't tell you more, I'm sorry. Itachi-san, Naruto muttered, not knowing how to explain about Mokuden. The brunette noticed how the boy hesitated. Did you want something, Naruto? Don't be afraid, ask. I'll answer. In general, Uzumaki fell silent again, trying to find the words. Itachi smiled slightly at the corners of his lips. Not mockingly, but encouragingly. The blonde decided that it would be easier to show rather than tell. Anyway, look, Itachi-san, the boy concentrated his chakra and threw his hand forward with a movement that had been perfected over long hours of training. Most of all, he was afraid now that the technique would not work for some reason, and he would be disgraced in front of Itachi. It worked out, but the brunette's expression was definitely worth all the effort the boy had put into practicing the jutsu. When wooden ribbons appeared from Naruto's fingers, the Uchiha was taken aback. His usually almost emotionless face showed frank surprise and complete shock. When the technique was fully executed, Uzumaki looked into the teenager's eyes with trepidation. What will happen? Itachi finally got a grip on his emotions. How did you do that, Naruto? The boy asked in amazement, using his Sharingan to examine the wooden strips that were now simply lying on the ground. There was no doubt, the boy had used wood release. Itachi-san, the blonde began, embarrassed. It was I who stopped those shinobi from Kumo. I wanted to distract them then, so that Hinata could escape, but they cornered me. I don't know how I did it then, but I used this technique. Then I couldn't repeat it for a long time, but I learned. Well, anyway, the boy fell silent. Uchiha quickly considered the information he had received. The boy had definitely not lied about those shinobi. Really, how had he managed to defeat 2 adult Jonin, professionals in their field? And how was it possible for the same person to have the genes of Senju and Uchiha, and even Uzumaki blood? Unrealistic, illogical. This should not have happened. But Naruto had just demonstrated the Mokuden technique. Considering that he had the Sharingan, defeating the enemy ninjas didn't seem so impossible. But how did he get both legendary genomes? Naruto, Itachi began cautiously after a long silence, you do understand that Mokuden is a truly powerful Kekkei Genkai, equal in power to the Sharingan. And you know that, Itachi-san, I will not tell anyone about this ability, Uzumaki swore to the brunette. I know that the Hokage will definitely want to get me to use my powers. But I will never allow him, because I cannot trust him. Uchiha thought with relief that Naruto was quite a smart boy for his age. And yet now we had to be doubly careful. God forbid, the Hokage or Danzo found out. And also, the brunette thought, it was time to talk to the blonde about the Uzumaki and Senju clans. Naruto, Itachi called the boy to him. He came closer. The brunette pulled himself together mentally. I want to tell you something. Chapter 8. The Present and Thoughts About the Future. Commentary on Chapter 8. The Present and Thoughts About the Future. Okay, people, I'll warn you right away. I use the name, Shisui. Not Shisui, but specifically Shisui. This is not a mistake. I've seen so many variations of this name, from Polivanov Sisui to Shisui, that I decided to choose the one I like. Enjoy reading. P.S. I swear I'm tired of reading the same error messages. Yours Rising Phoenix _. Naruto didn't like the academy, partly because of the attitude of most of his teachers and classmates, partly because of the teaching methods, who needs boring and tedious cramming, partly because he had already learned many topics thanks to Itachi. Naruto went there reluctantly, mainly because Ino, Hinata, Shikamaru and Choji went there. Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi. Ino introduced him to Uzumaki. The clans they belonged to have been cooperating for a long time, and Yamanaka had known these guys since childhood. And then it turned out that they were in the same class, and things started spinning. Naruto was very interested in Shikamaru. The guy was terribly, murderously lazy, always dissatisfied with something, but very smart, understood a lot, had his own opinion on everything. In general, he was independent of others. Uzumaki especially appreciated his last quality. Things were a little more complicated with Choji. The boy's clumsiness and eternal gluttony sometimes drove Naruto crazy. However, his kindness and openness outweighed all the unpleasant aspects. In addition, these two did not care at all about the attitude of others towards Uzumaki. Naruto was grateful to them for their sincere friendship, although he never said it out loud. Hinata Hyuga was terribly modest, constantly stuttered, blushed and turned away when she saw Naruto, but overall she was a very sweet and kind girl. The blonde took her under his wing from the very first day of training, just like an older brother, and the active and cheerful Ino became a friend of the shy Hyuga. At Uzumaki's request, Hinata never told anyone that he saved her. Naruto himself felt responsible for Hyuga and therefore protected the girl as best he could. Afterwards, Hinata was introduced to Shikamaru and Choji, and soon the boys became inseparable. The five of them trained, did their homework, went to Ichiraku, and went for walks. Many were surprised at how peacefully such different children got along in one company, and many looked askance at them because of Naruto. But no one dared to touch Uzumaki now. The boy became a friend of the heirs of 4 powerful clans of Konoha at once. It was becoming increasingly difficult to train at Training Ground 11. There was not enough time, and Naruto did not dare to reveal his secret even to his friends. He had to study at night, so during the day the blonde most often slept soundly during lessons together with Shikamaru, for which both received scolding from Ino. Mastery of the Sharingan continued to improve, but Naruto was still unable to awaken the second Tomo. Control over the wood release was also becoming more precise. The guy was already performing the technique with wooden ribbons more easily and learned to modify them a little, creating spikes, spears, hooks from them. But it was very difficult to make any improvements to the techniques, because Naruto did not have a single scroll with wood jutsu. Itachi promised to help with this, but so far he could not find anything suitable. At school, Uzumaki tried to pretend to be a weak, not very smart and disobedient student. Having soberly decided that no one would pay close attention to him, he deliberately showed poor results in class. It would be better if others did not know anything about his strength. And his friends. He would definitely tell his friends everything somehow. Sasuke Uchiha was almost everyone's favorite. He was handsome, very capable, the best student in his class. And cheerful. The teachers doted on him. The boys accepted him into their games, the girls enjoyed talking to him, some had already fallen in love with him at the age of 7. However, Sasuke hardly communicated with his peers. After classes, he almost always ran off to training, and to all questions he answered that he wanted to become as strong as his brother. Of course, everyone knew about Itachi Uchiha, the genius of the strongest clan, after all, and they believed that Sasuke would one day become just as famous. Sometimes the boy was met near the academy by Itachi himself, a serious, collected teenager, looking much older than his years. At such moments, Sasuke beamed with happiness. Naruto was a little jealous of the younger Uchiha. He could run up to Itachi at any moment, bury his face in his stomach with joyful cries and drag him along to training. And Uzumaki had to hide the fact that he was communicating with the teenager. Itachi looked at Sasuke in a special way, as he would never look at the blonde. Naruto understood that Sasuke was Itachi's brother, the most precious person to him, but he couldn't do anything about himself, about his envy. And this time, everything repeated itself according to the standard scenario. The teenager appeared on the academy porch, Sasuke flew out to meet him like a bullet and hugged him tightly, and then began to tell him about how his studies at the academy were going. He took a report card with grades out of his school bag and proudly showed it to his brother. Itachi smiled slightly. All subjects were worth 100 points. Naruto couldn't take it anymore and, telling his friends that he wasn't feeling well, went to the training ground. He was in a bad mood. And nothing improves it like a good workout, after which you don't even want to think. Another mission, this time, protecting the family members of one of the businessmen during a trip, was completed quickly and successfully. Itachi, as the head of the squad, spent some time with the report after returning to Konoha, but soon finished. Now he had 2 or 3 days of rest in reserve. First of all, Itachi met Sasuke from the academy. It was something like support. So the guy at least made up for his guilt before his brother. He didn't always support, didn't always help, involuntarily caused envy. Itachi noticed how quickly Naruto left the academy and went somewhere without his friends. The brunette realized that Uzumaki was angry with him for not paying enough attention to him. It seems he's become very attached to me. And to be honest, I'm attached to him too. But I definitely need to talk to him. After a short rest at home, Itachi headed to the archive. He had long wanted to look for a scroll with Mokudan techniques for Naruto. True, it was a big problem not to cause any unnecessary questions, but the brunette decided that he would still achieve his goal. The scroll, and not just one, was found after 2 hours of active searching. After the extinction of the Senju clan and Orochimaru's flight from the village, Mokudan techniques were of little interest to anyone, and the scrolls with them lay dusty. Itachi glanced through them and took several of the most understandable and detailed ones. Having sealed them, he left the archive building and came face to face with Shisui. Well, things are bad for us, Shisui grinned, putting down his glass of juice. Despite the combat merits of both Uchiha, alcohol was not sold to anyone under 18 in this cafe, even if they were from Anbu. There were few people, but just in case, Itachi discreetly cast a genjutsu on all the visitors, creating the illusion that he and Shisui were discussing some standard, most ordinary mission, and at the same time checked for tracking techniques using chakra. It seemed that there were no extra ears. For the first time in a long time, Itachi and Shisui's breaks between missions coincided, and both decided to use this opportunity to discuss the current situation in the clan with each other. The situation among the Uchiha was becoming not just dangerous, but critical. Discontent with the Hokage and the Council of Elders continued to grow, and more people, almost everyone, with very few exceptions, were joining the brewing rebellion. The clan's best minds had long ago begun to develop a detailed plan to seize power in Konoha, and Fugaku personally led the development. Combat training for shinobi was organized, disguised as regular training. But that was not the worst thing. Perhaps Itachi, using his far from low authority in the clan, could have somehow influenced the general opinion, if not for the provocateurs from Danzo, so diligently fueling the general discontent. A little more and the Uchiha clan will repeat the fate of the Senju. Father doesn't even want to listen to anything about negotiations. He says that our clan has already suffered enough from the village, Itachi sighed. You know, I was assigned to follow you, Shisui smiled. Noticing that his friend wasn't particularly surprised, he continued, the Konoha police assigned me to do it. They already consider you suspicious. You shouldn't show your emotions so obviously. I'm scared to think what will happen to Sasuke. Itachi clasped his fingers together and squeezed them until they turned white. Most likely, the clan will soon perish. They have little chance against the Hokage. And, if the Uchihas don't calm down or die out, they will plunge the village into chaos. In any case, my parents will die, and Sasuke will suffer. Itachi squeezed his fingers even harder. Not a good situation, Shisui agreed. Besides, they've already started a full-scale hunt for my eyes. Danzo's people, the Hokage's people, Orochimaru's people. It would be bad if someone got my Mangekyo. Can you use Koto Amatsukami to stop them? The time limit is still in effect, Shisui shook his head. It will end in about a week and a half. It might be too late by then. Itachi gritted his teeth. I don't want to drag Sasuke and Naruto into all this. But Naruto might be able to understand, he's like you and me. And Sasuke, I don't want him. I know, Shisui nodded and thought for a bit. What about Naruto's progress? He hasn't awakened the second Tomo yet. Mokudan develops relatively quickly. I was able to get him scrolls with wood techniques, so it will be easier for him to learn. So that's why you were in the archive. I see. Are you going to tell him about what's going on in the clan now? Not yet. It's one thing to talk about the history of clans that are already extinct, and quite another to talk about what's happening now. I don't want to involve Naruto in what's going on inside the Uchiha clan. Later, when it's all over, maybe I'll tell him about what happened. But not now. Don't you think you're making a mistake by hiding the truth from Sasuke and Naruto? Shisui asked, looking deeply into Itachi's eyes. Perhaps they could be the ones to change the Uchiha clan and all of Konoha. Perhaps, Shisui, perhaps. But I'm afraid that if they learn the truth, they will be killed either by Danzo's henchmen or the Hokage's men. I can't allow that. Let them remain safe. It will be better that way. Itachi already guessed where he would find his protege. And he was not mistaken. The boy, as it turned out, went to the training ground early in the morning. Approaching the edge of the area, Uchiha began to watch Naruto's training. Naruto's movements were as beautiful as they could be for a 7-year-old boy. 1. A quick combination of strikes. 2. A roll and retreat with a permanently performed clone technique. 3. Kunai fly at the targets. The accuracy of the hit is excellent. The Sharingan, even with only one tomo, does not fail. 4. The clones perform a distracting maneuver, while Naruto uses Mokuden. Itachi noted to himself that the boy was already modifying the wooden ribbon technique quite well. Seeing the brunette, Uzumaki was clearly happy, but was in no hurry to run towards him. Hello, Naruto, Itachi smiled slightly. Not a bad combination, just a little lacking in concentration. I know, the blonde muttered and plopped down right on the grass. Are you pouting because of what happened in front of the academy? The boy didn't answer, he just frowned, and Itachi was touched. Naruto was very similar to Sasuke, they even raised their eyebrows the same way. And yet he is still just a child. Listen, Naruto. Itachi came closer, bent down and patted Naruto on the head, who was sitting on the ground. Sasuke is my brother. Naturally, I will take special care of him. I think you understand this perfectly well. Naruto nodded. But that doesn't mean, Itachi continued, that I won't take care of you. You're very dear to me, too. Do you believe me? It's not my fault that I can't show it off in front of everyone. Itachi-san, but I can't help myself. Naruto couldn't stand it and started speaking quickly, choking on his words. When you talk to Sasuke like that, I immediately feel like I've been shortchanged. I immediately get angry. Sasuke always brings you his report card, and you praise him for his grades. But I can't study as well as he does. You'll never praise me for my grades, and I have to. Calm down, Naruto, the Uchiha smiled faintly. I don't need to see your grades to praise you. You don't need to study, train, and act like Sasuke. You are both very dear to me. That is why you should not be like my brother. You should not be the same. You are Uzumaki Naruto and you should only be Uzumaki Naruto. Do you really think so? Naruto asked, surprised by Itachi's long speech. The expectant look of blue eyes. The kind and confident look of black eyes. Finally, a smile touched Naruto's lips. Thank you, Itachi-san. You just understand. When you appeared, my whole life turned for the better. I became stronger, found friends, learned the truth about my parents. I will always, always be grateful to you for this. Itachi looked at his student. The first and only student, smart beyond his years and naive, kind but also capable of getting angry, rejected by the villagers of the Jinchuriki, who managed to find friends among the heirs of the strongest clans of Konoha. A truly genius child, in whom the blood of 2 legendary clans flows. Who knows, maybe he is the heir of Rakuto. Itachi-san, will you help me with training? Naruto asked cheerfully, standing up and brushing the grass off his pants. A child who became one of the few people truly close to Itachi. Of course. By the way, I brought you something. Naruto's eyes lit up when he saw what the Uchiha had brought. Mokuden techniques. Really? Thank you, Itachi-san. Uzumaki happily hung on Itachi, and then quickly unrolled one of the scrolls and began to read it greedily. The guy smiled slightly and became lost in his thoughts, watching the concentrated expression on the blonde's face out of the corner of his eye. Chapter 9. The day everything goes worse than ever. Commentary on Chapter 9. The day when everything goes worse than ever. Fellow readers, I appeal to all who were hoping for a sequel. Thank you very much for waiting. It was very nice to receive your feedback. Yes, I know that I am terribly lazy, that for such a delay I should be quartered. I understand everyone who was furious and angry. But I finally closed the session with 4 and 5, completed my first internship in a pharmacy and overcame my own laziness. Smiley face. I'll try to write faster, Unfortunately, it's the holidays now. Enjoy reading. Your Rising Phoenix. P.S. I have Shisu Y in my fanfic. Because of all the variations of his name, from Shisui to Shisui, this is my favorite variation. The dark corridor was flooded with water. There wasn't much of it, it only reached Naruto's ankles. But the water was cold and smelled unpleasant, like iron, and as luck would have it, there wasn't a single dry spot in sight. Where am I? And how did I end up here? The blonde slowly walked along this corridor, which led to an unknown destination. A dim orange light was pouring from the ceiling. Some debris, pieces of reinforcement and other iron and not so iron trash were sticking out everywhere. It was truly terrifying. It wasn't even the environment, Naruto wouldn't have been scared. But there was some kind of scary aura in the air. An aura of death. A thirst for murder. There was something terrifying lurking in the far corners of the corridor. Uzumaki knew exactly what it was. So the dull, distant roar of some creature was hardly unexpected. However, that didn't make it any less creepy. What is there? The roar grew louder. The blonde felt that he was shaking and trembling, and certainly not because of the cold water. However, he decided at all costs to find out where he was and what was at the end of the corridor. A turn. Another one. The dim light seemed to become a little brighter. The roar stopped, but not for long. Literally a minute later, whatever was hiding somewhere in this basement, there was no other name for this place, roared twice as loudly. Just a little more. I'm about to get there and find out. The wave of chi momentarily stunned him, causing him to press himself against the wall. How scary. How I am scared. Naruto had never felt such a sticky, suffocating fear. Even when he had to fight against the shinobi from Kumo, he felt a completely different fear, much less powerful and forcing him to fight. And now the blonde could barely move from horror. But curiosity still got the better of him. Naruto moved forward. Turn. Another one. Now the opening from which this poisonous yellow glow comes is visible. Just a little more. Hey, Naruto, wake up. Uzumaki jumped up from the ground and opened his eyes in surprise. But it was only Ino, who had come to pick him up after classes at the academy. Stop. Academies. Naruto realized that he had slept through all his classes today. For the first time in his life. It wasn't that he was ashamed, he just didn't want to ruin his opinion of himself completely. And Hinata would be upset, she was very worried about his academic performance. The image of that gloomy basement was still before his eyes. Uzumaki blinked, but the obsession was in no hurry to disappear. The dream was realistic, even too realistic. Naruto had never had such vivid dreams. By an effort of will, the guy switched his attention to more mundane things. Hey, Ino, why didn't you wake me up before the academy? Asked the blonde. They usually meet near the huge maple tree at the crossroads, and if Naruto doesn't come for more than 5 minutes, she comes for him in the morning and wakes him up. It was always like that, but for some reason not today. You see, Yamanaka rolled her eyes dreamily, I realized this morning that I've fallen in love. Naruto felt like he had been doused with ice water. And, who? He asked cautiously. Ino smiled dreamily. In Sasuke. Can you imagine, Naruto, I fell in love with Sasuke. Uzumaki remained silent. Hey, what's wrong? The girl was surprised. What happened? Aren't you happy? Ino, don't you understand? He doesn't pay attention to anyone. Naruto said a little louder than necessary. You know yourself that you are not the first one who fell in love with him. But he doesn't care, he doesn't pay attention to girls at all. He's the best, Ino exclaimed. He's so sweet, kind, handsome. He's the smartest because he has the best grades in his class, and he's also the heir to the strongest clan. He's not a guy, he's a dream. But he doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn about girls, and you're indifferent to him too, just understand. You, Ino jerked, looked at Naruto with a mixture of resentment, anger and disappointment. I thought you would be happy for me. Support me. And you're just jealous of him. She cried out. You can just never become like him. He's the best, everyone loves him, and you. What about me? Naruto asked evenly. What about me? If he's so good, then go to him. I think since he's so wonderful, he'll welcome you with open arms. Right, why do you need a friend now? Sasuke is the best, and I'm not fit to hold a candle to him, right? I didn't mean to say that, Ino quieted down. Naruto turned around and silently headed into the grove. Ino stood silently, wanting to say something, but not daring to. Uzumaki felt worse than ever before. 16 touches of heaven. Hinata, trying to overcome her own insecurity, began to strike. It was the first time she had practiced this clan technique, or rather, a simplified version of it, on a living opponent. Yamanaka agreed to help her with the training. Several hours had passed since the conversation with Naruto, but the blonde had not returned. It was already getting dark. Shikamaru and Choji went to look for him, and Ino stayed with Hinata. Hyuga had to practice the technique before tomorrow to show it to her father. She was incredibly worried, but more for her friend than for herself. Inhale, exhale, activate the Byakugan. The range is small, but it is enough for close combat. Attack. 1. Ino dodged this blow and got back into her stance. Hyuga bit her lip. 2. The blonde had to block. 4. Yamanaka was unable to block all the blows. Hinata's palms, shrouded in bluish chakra, slid along her body, and the blonde felt her body go slightly numb. 8. Hyuga's speed increased even more. Ino had a hard time parrying the blows. It was hard to concentrate. Several times she felt very painful blows to her tenketsu. 16. The last blow was really fast. Yamanaka was a little distracted, so she couldn't really concentrate and block the blow. The blonde flew to the side. Ino-chan, are you okay? Hinata cried out excitedly, running up to her friend. Yeah, I think everything's fine, Hinata. Ino smiled. Are you worried about Naruto-kun? The blonde sank slightly. Ah, yeah. Ino-chan, did something happen? Hyuga asked worriedly. No. Yes. Ino sighed. Anyway, you see, I had a fight with Naruto. He was probably really upset with me and that's why he still hasn't come. Hinata opened her already huge eyes in surprise. Why, you really had a fight with Naruto-kun? Yamanaka nodded resignedly. But you are such good friends. How did this happen? Ino sighed and recounted the conversation that had taken place a few hours ago. Hyuga sat and listened very attentively, not missing a single word. At the end of the story, the blonde burst into tears. I feel like such a fool right now. I'm so guilty before Naruto. Ino sobbed. Hinata, tell me, how can I apologize to him now? He's my best friend, and I said so many nasty things to him that he probably won't want to see me. But I don't think that's true, Hinata said quietly and hugged her friend's shoulders. Naruto-kun probably cares about you a lot. After all, Sasuke-kun really doesn't pay attention to any of the girls. Naruto-kun probably doesn't want you to be upset because of Sasuke-kun later. He would never hold a grudge against you. Really? Ino sniffled. Is it true? Do you think he will accept my apology? Of course. You're his best friend. Let's find Naruto-kun now. You'll apologize and everything will be fine. Ino wiped away her tears with the sleeve of her uniform and smiled. Yeah. It was the dead of night. The silence of training ground 11 was broken only by the chirping of the cicadas. Naruto finished his training and sat down, leaning tiredly against a tree. The moonlight shone on the kunai, clearly outlined the training posts and targets, and it was bright enough to read the scroll with techniques. The stars were hard to see. A full moon, however, they could be clearly seen if you activated the Sharingan. Today Uzumaki trained specifically so that his body would ache from overexertion, so that sweat would flow in 3 streams, so that it would be difficult to move a finger from fatigue. Mokudan, Sharingan, together these techniques took away a colossal amount of chakra, but this was exactly what Naruto needed. He did not want to think about the fact that Ino had fallen in love with this Sasuke. He did not want to feel this strange painful feeling in his chest. He did not want to feel offended. Why did she not fall in love with him? Why with Sasuke? Why him? He did not deserve her. How long had it been since Ino became more than just a friend to him? Naruto himself couldn't say. It felt like his entire adult life she had been dearer to him than anyone else in the world. And the fact that she no longer needed him made his soul ache unbearably. Enough. Don't think. It's not worth it. If she's happy. The blonde tried to get all thoughts out of his head, but it was not working. He had no strength left for training, so the boy collected and sealed his weapons, took his bag and slowly walked home. There are days in life when everything becomes worse than ever. Although Naruto was wrong here. It was much worse. At the border with the training ground, Uzumaki saw Itachi. All covered in blood, with his clothes torn in several places. Itachi-san. Naruto broke loose and, although his whole body ached, rushed forward. What happened? Are you hurt? I knew that you were here. Uchiha smiled through force. What happened, Itachi-san? The blonde asked excitedly. You're covered in blood, clan. What? Itachi looked Naruto in the eyes. The boy saw 3 Tomo merging. Mangekyo Sharingan. But why? And then images began to flash before Naruto's eyes one after another. Here he saw a meeting of the Uchiha clan, and Fugaku giving a speech about the need to seize power. Here the Hokage gives Itachi a secret mission, to monitor the clan. Here the head of the clan himself demands that he obtain information about the Hokage's plans through Anbu. Are these all his memories? The council where the elders, Danzo and the Hokage give Itachi the task of destroying the clan. At this point, Uzumaki felt a dull rage. It was so easy to give the order to kill the shinobi of his own village. Itachi's last conversation with Shisui, Naruto understood the name of his teacher's best friend from certain phrases, after which Shisui left both of his eyes with Itachi so that the Hokage or Danzo wouldn't get to them, and left Konoha. Meeting with a man who called himself Uchiha Madara, and an agreement according to which Itachi helps to take revenge on the clan, and Madara doesn't touch the village. And the last, most difficult memories. Blood, screams, Itachi's own tears, Fugaku's words that he was proud of his son, no matter what. And Sasuke, whom he couldn't touch. Lie, make him cry, but not kill. The pictures ended, and in the black and red world created by Genjutsu, only Itachi and Naruto remained. So that's it. What? The blonde could barely squeeze out after a long silence. So, the Uchiha clan is no more. Yes, there are only 4 left. Itachi lowered his eyes. 4. Naruto raised his eyebrows in surprise. But, who's the 4th? You. During our entire acquaintance, I tried many times to understand why you have a Sharingan, and finally came to the conclusion that you had someone from the Uchiha clan among your ancestors. It turns out that you also belong to our clan, albeit only partially. Naruto nodded. Itachi-san, why didn't you tell Sasuke the truth? Why did you lie to him? He's your brother. He won't understand. Uchiha lowered his eyes. I don't want. It's not true. Uzumaki suddenly jumped up. It's not true. Why do you think he won't understand? You told me everything, and now Sasuke will suffer. You were the most precious person to him, and he will think that you betrayed him. Why did you? Trust me, Itachi interrupted. This is how it must be. Please, trust me. But Naruto didn't have time to finish. The brunette hugged him. He had never done that before. Uzumaki jerked in surprise, but pressed himself against the Uchiha. Even though it was a genjutsu, all the feelings, every sensation were real. Please, take care of my brother. Protect Sasuke, Itachi asked very quietly. Don't tell him anything, but protect him, please. Promise me. I promise, Naruto answered just as quietly and felt Itachi smile slightly. I want to tell you something else, Uchiha said after a short silence. Beware of the Hokage and Danzo. You are a Jinchuriki, Naruto, and so they will be watching you closely. Beware of those two, and I ask you, hide your powers as best you can. The Hokage knows about your Sharingan, but no one knows about your Mokuden except me and Hinata. Keep it a secret for as long as possible. Sooner or later, everyone will know about this ability of yours, but I hope that by that time you will have become strong enough to resist Danzo's people and the Hokage. Do you promise, Naruto? I promise. But, Itachi-san, is there really no way you can stay? You. No, Naruto, I have no evidence of a conspiracy. Especially since I have to protect Konoha from Akatsuki. Only I can do that. But we can think of something else. Naruto clenched his fists in despair. I don't want you to leave. You're like an older brother to me. Itachi smiled weakly and pulled away. Listen to this, Naruto. On your pendant, which you got from your mother, there is a fuinjutsu. This seal can be seen with the Sharingan. It is located at the base of the crystal. I don't know what kind of technique it is, but I'm sure you can figure it out. I don't think your mother left it there for nothing. Yeah, Naruto sniffled, then pressed himself against Itachi again. I don't want you to leave. The brunette patted the blonde on the head and removed the genjutsu. Moonlight flooded the area, clearly outlining the contours of the training posts and targets. Naruto watched Itachi go, tears glistening in his eyes. Please, come back. You'll come back later, right, Itachi-san? The brunette flinched and stopped for a second, but did not turn around. I don't want to make promises that I'm not sure I can keep. He moved on, slightly unsteadily. Naruto fell to his knees and shook with silent sobs. Itachi. The blonde's scream cut through the silence. The Uchiha disappeared among the trees. Something painfully cut into Uzumaki's eyes. His vision became clearer than ever before, clearer than even when he used the Sharingan. In an instant, the fatigue and emotions he had experienced all came crashing down on Naruto at once, and the boy lost consciousness. Chapter 10. I swear. The grass under his hand was soft, cool and damp with dew. A barely noticeable light breeze ruffled the yellow curls. Crickets chirped somewhere. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. For some reason, now it seemed to him that the fight with Ino and farewell to Itachi were just a terrible nightmare. And more than anything in the world, he wanted it to really be a dream. The blonde slowly ran his hand over his face. There was an unpleasant feeling in his eyes, similar to when sand gets in them, only much weaker. His fingers felt a spot on his cheek, something long dried, curled up and crumbling. Blood. That's right, Itachi's entire clothing, his hands, his face were covered in blood. So it's not a dream. Naruto rose heavily from the ground and shook the dirt off his pants and jacket. Apparently, several hours had passed, because the sky had brightened and the stars were disappearing one after another. He needed to hurry home, quickly wash the blood stains off his clothes. But he didn't have the strength to walk. The blonde felt empty as never before. First he had a fight with the girl he liked madly, then he said goodbye forever to the person who had changed his whole life and had become closer and dearer than his brother. Losing two of the dearest people, and on the same day, was incredibly hard. The crushing feeling in his chest would not go away. Naruto vaguely remembered how he got home, miraculously not bumping into anyone, how he took off all his clothes and threw them into the old, extremely battered washing machine, how he took some food out of the refrigerator. After a long night of training, his exhausted body needed to replenish its energy, and ate without appetite. He was able to come to his senses more or less only when he was lying on his own bed. It was dawn. The first rare passers-by began to appear on the streets. Naruto didn't even need to look out the window to guess that this was happening. I wonder how long it will take for the corpses to be noticed. Will they start panicking soon? Uzumaki thought about it languidly, detachedly. It didn't matter what would happen. He didn't care anymore. Itachi was gone, and now the last, almost the last, loyal Konoha shinobi from the Uchiha clan would be considered a terrible criminal. Itachi was no longer in the village. There would be no training sessions that he would watch, no rare conversations, no gentle gesture when Itachi would ruffle the blonde's head. Nothing will ever be the same again. Please take care of my brother. Naruto took a deep, sharp breath, almost a sob, and buried his nose in the pillow. Tears began to flow. Why did it all turn out like this, Itachi-san? Itachi. So why? His eyes were slightly cut with pain. Uzumaki instinctively closed them, then slowly opened them. A guess illuminated his brain, and the boy stood up and went to the mirror in the bathroom. Everything seemed to be fine with his eyes, but Naruto activated the Sharingan just in case. That's right. That was to be expected. There was not just one tomo around the pupil, but two. What Naruto had been trying to achieve with 3 years of hard training had been achieved in one truly difficult night. Only the boy wasn't very happy with that price. You knew, right, Itachi-san? You knew and decided to make me stronger one last time. Thank you. The blonde thought gratefully, deactivating the Sharingan. Promise, Naruto. I will definitely become even stronger, Itachi-san. And I will do everything possible to make you considered a hero. I will do everything so that one day you can return to Konoha, I swear. There were no more tears. Once Naruto decided to become stronger, he no longer had the right to them. Please, take care of my brother. Protect Sasuke. You never asked me for anything. On the contrary, you always help me, train me. I have no right to refuse. I will protect Sasuke. I swear. Naruto got dressed and went outside. It was just dawn, so the air was still cool. The rare passers-by habitually looked askance at the blonde with an unkind look, but Uzumaki somehow didn't care. The boy didn't know if he should go talk to Sasuke right now, especially since he most likely hadn't come to his senses yet. It was quite possible that if no one had entered the Uchiha quarter, he hadn't even received help yet. So Naruto wandered aimlessly around Konoha, and it just so happened that his feet carried him to the Yamanaka flower shop. I should apologize to Ino for yesterday. Especially now. But did she have time to find out about what happened to the Uchihas? Uzumaki's mental anguish could have continued for a very, very long time, if Ino herself hadn't run out of the store into the street. Naruto, she shouted, instantly appearing at the boy's side. Naruto, forgive me, Ino, the blonde interrupted her. I said a lot of bad things about Sasuke yesterday. And I really offended you then. And I just behaved like a complete idiot. I am guilty before you. Forgive me, please. The girl was slightly taken aback. Naruto. But I'm the one who should apologize. I said so many nasty things to you back then. It's okay, Uzumaki smiled. You said almost nothing offensive. It's my fault. No, it's because of me that you then. They both fell silent, looking at each other, and then suddenly burst out laughing. I have a feeling we'll be apologizing to each other until the evening, Naruto said through laughter. So, peace. Uzumaki extended his hand with his little finger extended in a gesture of reconciliation. Ino smiled and extended her hand in response. World. The blonde felt a little lighter in his soul. The oppressive feeling that had settled there since Itachi's departure had receded, giving way to the warmth that Yamanaka literally radiated. It's a pity that for her he is just a best friend, nothing more. There was only half an hour left before classes at the academy. Ino and Naruto had already managed to walk along the Sakura alley. Even though it was not the blooming season, it was still beautiful. Meet Shikamaru and Choji, go pick up Hinata and have a bite to eat together at Ichiraku. There were no signs of excitement or panic, which should be after such a terrible event as the murder of an entire clan. Most likely, no one had noticed anything yet. The Uchiha lands were on the edge of Konoha, and the clan itself lived in isolation, so there were always few people there. But Naruto was getting more and more nervous with each passing minute. He was a little worried about Sasuke. How was he doing without medical help? He wanted to know the villagers' reaction, and he was just nervous after Itachi's words. Finally, Hinata noticed his condition. Naruto-kun, is something wrong? She asked worriedly. You don't seem yourself. I have a very bad feeling about this, Uzumaki answered reluctantly. And he almost didn't lie. What kind of premonition? Choji asked curiously, crunching on chips. Well, Naruto shrugged his shoulders vaguely. He really didn't want to lie to his friends. Like something terrible was about to happen. The friends remained silent. They also felt this oppressive feeling, but they could not explain it, and therefore did not say a word about their experiences. The boys walked slowly. They could take their time for another 10 or 15 minutes. They were already closer to the outskirts of the village when they suddenly heard someone's heart-rending scream. Without noticing it, they found themselves next to the Uchiha quarter. There was a sudden commotion all around. Adults were running, shouting something and gathering at the entrance to the block. It started, Naruto thought, and asked out loud. What's going on here? The boys looked around in fear. Shikamaru grabbed an unfamiliar middle-aged woman from the crowd by the sleeve. Excuse me, but could you please tell us what happened? The woman blinked in surprise. Don't you know? The entire Uchiha clan was killed. The boys froze in place, rooted to the spot. Suddenly, Ino jumped up with a cry of, Sasuke, and flew towards the clan's estate. Naruto hurried after her. Hinata rushed after the blonde. Shikamaru grunted with displeasure. How lazy. But still ran after him, and Choji followed him. They ran to the place literally a minute later. A huge crowd of onlookers had gathered at the gate, but the shinobi were not letting them in. Several masked fighters were standing nearby, even Anbu were dragged in, Uzumaki thought angrily. The cordon was tight, a crowd of curious people stood like a wall, but Ino and Naruto behind her somehow miraculously managed to squeeze through to the shinobi. Hey, kids aren't allowed in here. A young girl with chestnut hair pulled back into a ponytail and wearing a sand-colored cloak said arrogantly. Get out of here quickly. Sasuke, Ino said through tears. What? About Sasuke? The girl snorted discontentedly. Yamanaka looked at her with a pleading look. Naruto stood next to her, putting his hand on her shoulder. You mean that little kid? He was the only survivor, the girl finally deigned to answer. When they found him, he was unconscious. Now he's in the hospital. Thank you, Ino blurted out and, turning around, began to squeeze through the crowd again. Naruto barely managed to catch her hand. Ino, stop. What is it, Naruto? The blonde turned around, confused. I have to visit Sasuke. You heard what that Kunoichi said, right? Sasuke was unconscious when they found him. Even if he came to, which is unlikely, we shouldn't disturb him yet. We need to let him recover, right? I have to support him. Ino said stubbornly. I have to help him. Naruto sighed and gently took the girl by the shoulders. Listen, Ino, Uzumaki said slowly, clearly, so that it would be clear. Sasuke is injured, and he needs at least 3 days of rest. He shouldn't be disturbed for his own good, you understand, right? Besides, it's very hard on him mentally. I can't even imagine what it's like to lose all your relatives in an instant. So wait for now, don't rush to fly to the hospital to see Sasuke, okay? For his own good, don't rush. Okay. Ino nodded silently. What's up ahead? Asked Shikamaru, who had pushed forward. We were told that everyone died except Uchiha Sasuke, the blonde replied. He's in the hospital now, and I think we'd better not disturb him for at least 3 days. Perhaps we should go to the academy. You're right, Shikamaru agreed. Let's go. They pushed their way back through the crowd. Naruto briefly recounted what he had seen to Choji and Hinata. Horror was all Hyuga could whisper, covering her mouth with her hand. But who could do something like that? Choji said in a strangled voice, nervously clutching the bag of chips in his hands. I don't know, the blonde answered briefly, looking down. Lying turned out to be much harder than he thought. We're late for class, Hinata muttered quietly. Only 10 minutes left. Ino swallowed nervously, moved her lips as if she was about to say something, but remained silent and simply nodded. The boys ran towards the academy. Along the way, they saw excited residents talking to each other, onlookers who wanted to see the crime scene for themselves, shinobi scurrying back and forth. There were even Anbu, their white and red masks standing out sharply from the crowd. They were 15 minutes late. However, classes were cancelled anyway. The evening was damp. The sun had set. A turbid fog hung in the air and spread along the ground. There were almost no passers-by on the street, only occasionally someone from the inhabitants hurried home. The hype surrounding the Uchiha clan massacre had not died down completely even after 2 weeks. Civilians gossiped for days on end, wondering why Itachi had slaughtered all his relatives. Some were still afraid to leave their homes, even though it was known for certain that the killer had left the village. Ordinary shinobi were quite nervous. Secret checks began in the larger clans, this especially concerned the Hyuga. Hiyashi checked everyone for loyalty to the clan, and the side branch, especially meticulously. Bad reputation began to hover around the deserted clan lands. Someone spread rumors about the ghosts of the murdered Uchiha appearing at the place of their death. No one dared to buy a single building in the area. The place was out of the way, inconvenient, and no one wanted to live where such a terrible massacre had taken place. So Sasuke, after recovering for a little over a week, returned to the now deserted streets. The downpour that fell on the 4th day after the massacre washed away almost all the blood, but here and there you could still see unsightly brown stains. Not to mention the broken doors, broken windows, kunai and shurikens lying here and there. Who would have thought that one of the greatest clans in shinobi history would meet such an inglorious end? Sasuke gritted his teeth until they hurt. From now on, he would have only one goal in life. Itachi, I will kill you. I will avenge the clan, I swear. The military police had to be disbanded. After the massacre, there was almost no one left. The head of the police and most of the members who belonged to the Uchiha died. It's a pity, of course, the Hokage thought to himself, smoking a pipe in his office. They were great at maintaining discipline in Konoha, and now, expect a rise in crime. But anything is better than a rebellion. An Anbu wearing a mouse mask appeared silently on the threshold. Hokage-sama, the guy bowed politely. Yes, come in, Hiruzen nodded without turning his head. How is our Jinchuriki? No suspicious behavior has been observed, the Anbu reported. The boy is constantly near his friends, trains with them, and never leaves. And he doesn't train alone. Sarutobi turned his head in surprise towards his subordinate. And he never went to training ground 11. No, Hokage-sama, on your orders, we keep watch around the clock, but Naruto has never left the training ground. Hiruzen scratched his chin thoughtfully. Are you sure this isn't a clone? Yes, Hokage-sama. During the observation, Naruto repeatedly underwent full training and sparring. Shadow clones dissipate from such loads, but this did not happen, and Naruto is not experienced enough to create elemental clones. Well, that's true, the Hokage nodded, thinking. You can go. Yes. The Anbu bowed and left silently. The old man took a deep drag. Apparently, Itachi was the only one with the key to the FUNN of Training Ground 11. If so, then the secret of this training ground would probably remain a secret, and Naruto would now always be in sight and under control. Just in case, the observation was extended for 3 months, but nothing strange was noticed. The Hokage finally calmed down and decided that now there was no need to worry about the Jinchuriki. None of the Anbu ever noticed that Naruto was using wood clones. Omake. Part 1. Preparing for the festival, or, hang in there, friend. Commentary on Omake. Part 1. Preparing for the festival, or, hang in there, friend. So, dear readers, today is exactly 1 year, 1 month and 1 day since I first registered on CF. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Thank you for believing in the story even when I don't believe in it myself. Abstracts are evil, Latin is hell, and math statistics is a torture worse than the Inquisition. Sorry for the wait for the chapter. This fanfic already has over 350 likes. Honestly, I'm shocked, comrades O_O, but thank you all so much. I love you too. This chapter is dedicated to the reader with the nickname Garadot, who sent me a bunch of great ideas and useful comments in private messages. Thank you very much. The chapter, by the way, is short. But don't be upset, because the second part will come out sooner than you might expect. Enjoy reading. Yours Rising Phoenix, _. On the rooftop on Saturday morning it was, as always, quiet, cool and calm. Naruto stretched and turned from his side to his back, putting his hands behind his head. The clouds hung in clumps in the sky, like pieces of cotton wool, and floated slowly and lazily. It was still very early, there was no one on the streets, absolute serenity. The silence was broken by Yamanaka's loud voice. Hey, Naruto, wake up. Stop sleeping. Are you even going to go out today? Well, Ino. The blonde drawled. Well, let me lie down. For a little bit. Stop it already. The girl snorted. The festival is already in the evening. And we need to help with the preparations, and I need to choose a yukata. So get up, and let's go. Naruto made a displeased face, more out of spite than real displeasure. He couldn't be angry with the kind and open Ino. Stretching, he stood up. What are your plans for today? First we need to prepare the flowers for sale, the blonde chattered enthusiastically. So let's go to the greenhouses. The necessary solution has already been prepared, so all we have to do is cut the flowers. I'll show you how to cut the stems correctly. In the afternoon we'll go choose a yukata. With Hinata. It seems she already has it. Ino shook her head. Although she promised to come, they are unlikely to let her go. The Hyugas are also preparing. The upcoming festival in honor of the victory over the Kyuubi caused conflicting feelings in Naruto. The villagers hated him because the Nine Tails was sealed in him. Every year during the festival, they attacked him, trying to vent their anger. Although Uzumaki understood that now, when the heirs of the most influential clans were with him, and he himself had been training for a long time, no one could harm him, he did not want to go. And yet, this is the first festival to which he was invited by his friends, Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata, his first and only friends. To which he was invited by Ino, whom he loves. He simply could not go. So he went with Ino to the greenhouses belonging to the Yamanaka clan. The Yamanaka were the main suppliers of flowers to Konoha. For the clan, their sale was a significant source of income, so the greenhouses were monitored very closely. It took Ino a long time to persuade her clanmates to let Naruto in there. Many considered him a demon and did not even want to think about letting him into the clan's territory. It was good that Inoichi himself stood up for the boy. After the direct permission of the clan head, all the dissatisfied people were forced to shut up willy-nilly. But Naruto still felt the burning gazes of the few workers who had been in the greenhouses since the morning on his back. However, Ino was smiling happily next to him, and the blonde stopped paying attention to others. The girl showed how exactly and at what angle to cut different flowers so that they would not wilt longer. The boys began to work. First, they had to deal with the unpretentious chrysanthemums and asters, and then with more delicate plants, roses, lilies, calla lilies. Not only Naruto, but even Ino was not allowed to approach the rare and especially fragile orchids that would decorate the monument to the shinobi who died in the battle with the Kyuubi. Immediately after cutting, the flowers were placed in a previously prepared greenish-yellow solution, which slowed down their metabolism and kept the plants fresh. This solution smelled a little strange, like some kind of slime. Naruto winced a little every time he put the flowers in it, but Ino seemed to have long been accustomed to this smell. When she saw the blonde's reaction for the first time, she only laughed and immediately said that the flowers would definitely not stink after this solution. The boys finished only by midday, when the sun began to bake, despite the fact that it was autumn. Ino, it seemed, was not tired at all and was about to run to the store to buy a yukata, but Naruto declared that he would not go anywhere until he ate. The blonde, sighing, agreed. The two of them headed to Ichiraku, where Uzumaki ordered the largest ramen. Ino ordered the small. Are you afraid you'll get fat from just one bowl of noodles? Naruto chuckled kindly, picking up the spirals with his chopsticks. It felt strange to eat his namesakes. I'll have to choose a yukata. How will I pull it over my full belly? The girl was indignant. How will I show up in front of Sasuke with a full belly? I have to be the most beautiful at the festival so that he'll notice me, and to do that I need to watch my diet. Well, it's a shame you refuse, Uzumaki muttered. The ramen is delicious. Everything inside was boiling. Why Sasuke? She tried to be beautiful for Uchiha, not for him. But he promised himself that he would support her, no matter who she chose, and would never upset her more, and so he kept silent. A completely devastated Shikamaru suddenly burst into the ramen shop. Naruto turned his head in surprise. Hello, Save me. Not letting the blonde finish, Nara interrupted, plopping down on the chair next to him and dripping down the tabletop. What happened? Ino asked. Mom, she'll soon drive us all to death. Shikamaru muttered in a sepulchral voice. She keeps running around. Festival. It's enough to kill herself. Shikamaru came from the street. The brunette shuddered and slid down. Naruto. Hold on, friend. Uzumaki grinned. Mothers are a terrible force. He remembered, completely out of place, how Itachi had told him about his mother, Kushina. Now these memories brought almost no pain. On the contrary, Naruto felt a warm and bright nostalgia. Itachi had told him about his parents in such a way that they seemed alive. Uzumaki had laughed until he cried at the adventures of the bloody habanero, listened with enthusiasm about his father's exploits, worried about their relationship. Saddened, hearing about their deaths. Yes, mothers are a terrible force. He repeated, looking into the distance with serious eyes. In general, Naruto finally smiled and winked, try to survive there. Ino laughed. Shikamaru groaned. So, which yukata suits me better? Ino asked impatiently as she walked out of the dressing room. This time, the fabric was a dark, soft purple with iris patterns, and the white obi belt stood out against it very brightly, but it looked appropriate. Naruto exhaled. It was his first time helping someone choose clothes, so the torment of boredom and waiting for the girl to change was still new and unfamiliar to him. Yamanaka had already tried on about 8 different yukata and could not choose the right one. And Uzumaki himself was faced with a dilemma. How could he say that she looked great in each of them? He had to choose the most beautiful one. The guy drawled. I don't even know. This one is okay, the blue one looked good too. And the black and red one? No, it doesn't suit you very well, Naruto snapped. Ino chuckled thoughtfully and looked at herself in the mirror. This yukata really does look pretty. Yeah, let's take this one. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, the hellish torture was over. Sorry, I'm late, a quiet voice was heard very close by. Hinata-chan, Yamanaka exclaimed happily. It's okay that you're late. True, we've already chosen a yukata for me. My yukata is torn, Hinata said hesitantly. They gave me money, and it's the first time I'll be choosing in a store myself. I'm sorry. What, so you need a yukata too? Well, then we'll help you. Ino smiled and gently patted Hinata on the head. Right, Naruto. The blonde slid down the bench to the floor. This is even worse than intense training. I guess now I understand how Shika felt. The torture continued. There were still 5 hours left until the festival. Omake. Part 2. Medallion. The entire central square was filled with large and small tents. Some sold masks, others offered goldfish, and others gave off the delicious aroma of takoyaki and other delicacies. On the outskirts, people from the Nara clan were giving rides to children on reindeer. The Akamichi set a huge table at the clan's expense. The Yamanaka sold flowers to couples in love. In the center of the pavilion, a large stage was installed, where every year they performed a scene about the victory over the nine-tailed beast. The solemn ceremony of laying flowers at the monument to those who died in the battle with Kyuubi had already ended, so it was time to relax. The Hokage, as always, was giving a solemn speech about the victory over the demon, the sacred duty of memory and the younger generation. Naruto wasn't really listening to him. The old man wouldn't say anything more than what everyone knew anyway. The truth that was unflattering for the leadership was hushed up, as always. Passers-by at the festival paid almost no attention to Naruto. Yes, many winced and threw displeased glances in his direction. Yes, some angrily muttered, "What does this demon need here?" But they were immediately distracted by other things. The boy was only glad about this. Naruto's eyes were running wild. He wanted to go to all the tents at once and buy everything that could be bought, do everything that could be done at once. He had the money the Hokage had given him in his pocket, but it wasn't that much. However, he still wanted to have fun from the heart. And make the guys happy. Shoji immediately went to buy caramel apples. Shikamaru sighed and went with him. Hinata timidly approached the goldfish, intending to catch one, and there she ran into Kiba. Then they left together. Naruto wasn't too worried about the boys. They needed to have fun too. They were definitely safe. They could stand up for themselves if anything happened. And here, Uzumaki was even a little embarrassed. He and Ino were alone. Like a date, honestly. Although, why not? Yamanaka couldn't decide where to go. The boy, seeing her confusion, smiled and said, "Let's go to the horror room." And it all started. The boys visited the horror room and the laugh room, ate delicious dango, washed down with soda, bought caramel apples, lit sparkling candles, and participated in all sorts of competitions. Naruto had less and less money in his pocket, but that didn't bother him much. It was fun, easy and joyful. And Uzumaki would have been even happier if Ino hadn't been looking for Sasuke in the crowd with her eyes. Oh, what is this? The girl suddenly said in surprise. Naruto turned his head. A small tent was set up at the very corner of the pavilion. The seller, an elderly man of about 50, was adjusting the medallions that were carefully lying on the rough fabric of the counter. Very unusual medallions, Naruto had never seen such before. They consisted of several detachable parts, each of which had its own chain attached to it. The medallions were mostly paired and were made in the style of love symbols, others consisted of 3, 4, 5 parts, and at the very edge of the counter lay a medallion made of 6 parts. And there was not a single repeating one among them. Ino came closer and looked at the medallions with admiration. Naruto, who was standing next to her, looked at the counter from over her shoulder. Do you like it? The man asked, smiling slightly. These are medallions for lovers and friends. See, they consist of several parts. You wear one yourself, and your friend wears the other. Or your loved one. The seller grinned, looking at Naruto. He was embarrassed. Is it really that noticeable? Well, Ino thought, then I choose this one. She pointed to a medallion of 2 hearts, stylized as the yin-yang symbol. And also, this one, Naruto said at the same time. The boys looked at each other and burst out laughing. They both pointed at the same medallion. It was in the form of a colorful flower with 5 separate patterned petals, yellow, purple, red, green and blue. Where the center of the flower should have been, each petal had a light protrusion in the form of a small palm. The man smiled. Good choice. Do you know what these medallions mean? He carefully took the one the boys had chosen into his hand and separated the yellow and purple petals. Every person is special, with their own interests, habits, oddities. And yet there is always a kindred spirit. Someone with whom strong bonds are formed. The man linked 2 petals. But that's not all. A person by himself, no matter how wonderful he is incomplete. Just as a single part of a medallion is incomplete. But when a person is with friends, something new is born. New and beautiful. The seller again connected all the petals. On his large calloused palm lay a whole flower again. The boys looked at each other. I constantly travel around the world. And I've been making medallions like these for a long time. Each one is unique, just like friendship and love are unique. Although, the seller laughed good-naturedly, why should you listen to me, an old man? No, what are you saying? Ino shook her head. Thank you very much. We are very grateful to you. Naruto bowed. The guys paid and were about to turn away when the seller shouted, Hey, kid. Naruto turned around and walked up to the counter. Ino stood to the side. The man handed him a pair of medallions, 2 beautiful silver lilies, linked by leaves. Here you go. It's on the house, he grinned. You don't have to give it to me yet and wait until you grow up a bit. Naruto looked at the medallion in surprise. Thank you, Uzumaki said a little embarrassed. Don't let her go. The salesman whispered conspiratorially. She'll grow up to be a beauty. The boy smiled a little sadly and nodded his head. Does he have a chance? I'm going away for a bit. Ino smiled guiltily. I'm going to the ladies' room. Ah, good. Then I'll wait here. Naruto nodded and leaned his back against the pole. In a couple of minutes they'll show a scene about the battle with Kyuubi, and then they'll start launching fireworks. The boy checked his wallet. There wasn't much money left. He and Ino spent almost everything that was left after buying the medallion on firecrackers, deciding that they would launch them later with the rest of the boys. Uzumaki's gaze slid over to the tent where they were selling masks. The blonde decided to buy one for himself and came closer. The seller looked at the boy and instantly became angry. What do you want here, demon? I decided to choose a mask for yourself. Here. With these words, the man threw a fox mask in Naruto's face. Take it, pay and get out of here. You don't deserve more. The boy opened his mouth to object, but heard voices. There he is. The demon. He decided to ruin our holiday. Go away. Go away. Murderer. Demon spawn. I am Uzumaki Naruto. The boy shouted in the faces of the approaching men. They only grinned. We'll teach you a lesson, demon. And the blonde barely dodged a sharp kick. Damn. Why? Why is it all happening again this time? He turned and ran away. Today and now, when he was able to have fun at the festival for the first time, these words sounded especially offensive. Away, past the tents, past the stage, past the passers-by. Away from the square, away through the empty streets of Konoha. Naruto's feet brought him to the Uchiha quarter. It seemed he had come running the same way as 3 years ago. Only now no one was chasing him, they had fallen behind on the road, and no one had met him here. The blonde went down to the pond and sat down on the bank. The guys stayed there at the festival. And yet, why are they friends with him, a demon? Why don't they turn away from him? He hadn't thought about it before. But now, Itachi, who knew the whole truth, was one thing, and his friends, who knew nothing except that all the adults thought he was a demon, were another. Why? Naruto closed his eyes, listening to the silence around him. The leaves rustled softly, birds cried out from time to time. Kunai clattered on the training grounds a little further away. Sasuke was training again, he didn't even go to the festival. What a fool, Uzumaki sighed. Itachi had asked him to take care of his brother, and so the blonde simply could not leave Sasuke without attention. He used wood clones that could merge with the ground and move in them and inside trees. One clone was constantly watching Sasuke and was supposed to. Naruto winced as the clone's memories merged with his own. Itachi's brother was attacked by shinobi from the cloud. Sasuke let out a ragged breath. Today's training had gone a little better than yesterday's. 7 more shurikens had hit their target. It's not enough. You have to train more, harder. That's the only way to become stronger and defeat Itachi. And in Konoha the festival was in full swing. Sasuke loved festivals. When he was younger, he never missed a single one. He especially loved fireworks, beautiful, bright. He usually went to festivals with his mother. His father was always busy ensuring security, and The brunette shook his head. He had no time for such nonsense anymore. Only the goal was important now. Sasuke heard a quiet rustling sound. He didn't have time to turn around. He was knocked down and hit somewhere in the neck. Before losing consciousness, the Uchiha noticed the Kumogakure symbol on the shinobi's forehead protector and felt himself being tied up. Sasuke woke up in a familiar grove that was on his clan's territory. His vision was a little blurry, but he saw someone fighting 2 shinobi at once. 2 more were lying unconscious on the ground, and among them was the one who had tied up Sasuke. From time to time, the light from lightning release techniques flashed in the darkness, and then one could see the blonde hair of a very short boy and the wooden mask that covered his face. The fight was hot, but to Sasuke's surprise, it ended quickly and in the boy's favor. The enemy shinobi were tied with wooden bands. The Uchiha's eyes widened. Was this really a Mokuden technique? Meanwhile, the stranger turned around, fixed his gaze on Sasuke, and ran away. The boy jumped up. Hey, you, wait, but he disappeared behind the trees. Sasuke stopped, confused, and leaned against the trunk, his head was spinning a little. A year and a half ago, a similar incident occurred when an unknown person who wielded Mokuden saved the heiress of the Hyuga clan. But no one could find this person back then. He's not an enemy of the village, that's for sure. On the contrary, he supports it in his own way. But it seems that for some reason, that person doesn't want to be exposed. Is it worth trying to find him then? If even Anbu couldn't do it back then. Something glittered in the grass. Sasuke came closer and saw a medallion in the shape of a lily flower. Only it was strange, as if it had a second half. The boy remembered that he had seen similar ones before. A couple of years ago, at one of the festivals, they sold paired medallions. It was dropped by that same stranger. Sasuke picked up the medallion and, after thinking for a moment, put it in his pocket. Naruto sat on the Hokage rock and swung his legs. From the mountain, the square and the pavilions on it were visible as if in the palm of your hand. The holiday. The boy sighed heavily. Sasuke had been attacked by Cloud Shinobi, and it was good that Uzumaki had made it in time. That meant they would soon start looking for the owner of the Mokuden again. Besides, Sasuke had woken up before he had time to leave, and could partially describe his appearance. Crap. And Naruto lost half of the pendant. That was the most offensive thing. It probably remained lying in the grove. If they find it, there will be no end of problems, they will be able to figure it out. But Uzumaki could not bring himself to throw away the second part. It was a gift. But today the blonde guy has. Hey, Naruto. Naruto-kun. Where have you been, Naruto? We've been looking for you. Uzumaki turned around and froze. His friends were standing behind him, out of breath, tired, but happy. Guys. You're such a troublemaker, Naruto, Shikamaru snorted. We were running all over Konoha looking for you. We were worried, Choji muttered. The girls were really nervous. What's going on? Ino shouted, grabbing Uzumaki by the shoulders and shaking him. You only had to step away for a minute. Do you even realize how worried we were about you? You're a fool, that's all. The boys laughed. Naruto felt a warmth spreading in his chest. Guys, were you really that worried about me? Of course, Naruto-kun. Hinata answered. We are friends. Ino smiled and put the chain on him. Uzumaki slightly squinted and saw a yellow patterned petal dangling from its end. Only now did Naruto notice that his friends were wearing pieces of the medallion they had bought. They were also holding small boxes in their hands, wrapped in colored paper and tied with bright ribbons. Really? But how did they even know? A person by himself, no matter how wonderful he is incomplete. Just as a single part of a medallion is incomplete. But when a person is with friends, something new is born. Something new and beautiful. Happy birthday, Naruto, the boys shouted in unison. Fireworks exploded in the sky in a shower of bright sparks. So warm. Thank you guys. This is the best birthday ever. The name of sparklers, also known as Bengal candles, comes from the name of the Indian region of Bengal. However, in the Naruto world, there is most likely no such region, and I decided that sparklers will be called sparkling candles. Commentary on Omake. Part 2. Medallion. In honor of the fanfics on my profile having collected over 1,000 likes in total, I am posting the sequel. The second part of the Omake is at your service. P.S. Wish me luck on the Latin exam and the physiology correspondence. Enjoy reading. Yours Rising Phoenix _. Chapter 11. The Present and Pictures from the Past. Stop. I'm telling you. Shikamaru. Kiba. Choji. Naruto. The blonde stuck his tongue out at Iruka and started running faster. The paint that had been left in drops on his hands began to dry, causing a slightly unpleasant feeling of tightness. And the pungent smell would probably soak into his clothes. The boys turned into a small gateway where it was easy for them, children, to run, but uncomfortable for an adult. As if I'd ever agree to go with you again, Naruto, snorted Nara. I'm already tired of it. Always having an all in your ass. Oh, come on, Uzumaki grinned. To them, he nodded at the Hokage's rock, it's coming. The Hokage's faces were decorated with absolutely ridiculous drawings, like stripes and spirals, and inscriptions of not quite decent content. Naruto tried his best, painting the rock. It was a pleasure to get on the nerves of Old Man Third, and he would definitely get nervous, and at the same time the teachers. Perhaps, of all the teachers, he would not want to annoy only Iruka-sensei, the only one of the entire teaching staff of the academy who treated him warmly. But the blonde would not refuse to give Hiruzen minor needles even for him. It was unclear how Naruto managed to incite the others to pranks. It was unclear how the lazy Shikamaru and the clumsy Choji could be persuaded to do anything more active than lying on the grass. And Kiba joined them himself, for company. Be that as it may, Konoha was on its ears from the antics of Uzumaki and his ilk. Either they would rub the blackboard in the classroom with soap so that it was impossible to write on it, or they would draw something indecent on the fences, or they would dress up as monsters and start scaring passers-by late at night. And all these antics usually ended with an escape from the enraged teachers of the academy. Naruto was the one who got it most often. Well, he was the one to take it out on. He was the instigator, the defenseless orphan, and the demon. The guy himself constantly distracted the pursuers, letting his friends get away. It would be a shame for them to get it too. And now. Got you. Ouch, that hurts. Let go of my ear, Iruka-sensei. Naruto, why did you do that? Why did you ruin the Hokage monument? The man sighed and unclenched his fingers. Uzumaki rubbed his ear, snorted and answered proudly, because I will become Hokage myself and surpass them all. You're at it again, Iruka said a little tiredly and patted the blonde on the head. Go ahead and take a rag and wash this thing off. And then we'll go to Ichiraku, okay? Naruto beamed, even though he had just been forced to work. After all, his sensei treated him so kindly, as if he were a close friend. And if Itachi was like an older brother to him, then Iruka was like a father figure. Good, Uzumaki smiled. The last exam was incredibly easy. All he had to do was create a few illusory clones, for Naruto, who could create wood and shadow ones, a mere trifle. But how could these illusory clones help in a real fight? Any shinobi would be able to immediately distinguish them from the original. Child's play, really. But he had to keep up a mask and pretend that the illusory clone technique was difficult for him. Now his friends are celebrating the passing of the exam, each in their own clan. Such are the traditions. And so Naruto went to the Uchiha quarter along the usual route. You're back again, Uchiha said sullenly as the blonde walked out onto the training ground. I told you not to show up here. Are you an idiot or what? You're the idiot, Sasuke. I came to train. Then you should train somewhere else. Although it's strange to hear from a person who could barely create illusory clones, the guy answered sarcastically. Nothing will help you now. You'll remain as weak as you were. Even training won't save you. Shall we check? Naruto grinned widely, getting into a stance. 4 years ago. Naruto snorted in annoyance as he watched a crowd of screaming fangirls gather around Sasuke. Damn, what did they see in him? Sure, he was a great student, he had a cute face, but didn't even his indifference scare off the girls? Moreover, they all thought his indifference was something aristocratic and noble. Okay, Uzumaki himself shouldn't have cared, but Ino was one of Sasuke's fans. Kami-sama, why are they so fussing over this idiot, as if he were the center of the universe? He muttered quietly to himself, so that the girl would not hear. The only thing he needed was to upset her. If it weren't for Yamanaka, he would have told this black-haired idiot out loud and in front of everyone everything he thought about him a long time ago. Take care of Sasuke. Naruto would never dare not fulfill Itachi's request. But heaven knows, it was a terrible pain in the ass. Uzumaki had to save Uchiha from kidnappers 6 times, and in 2 cases, also run away from Anbu. Hell, it was Sasuke himself who almost caught him the first time. Because of him he lost the one and only gift for Ino. Because of him he never trained at Training Ground 11 for 3 months after the first assassination attempt, so as not to attract unnecessary attention to himself, all because of this idiot, who, moreover, Yamanaka loves, an idiot, because of whom they once quarreled. Crowds of girls are always hanging around Sasuke, teachers dote on him, guys think it's cool to communicate with him, and he constantly looks at everyone as if they are worthless and unworthy of his royal highness. And it was him, damn it, who had to be protected. Naruto went for a walk in a foul mood. Classes were over, Ino had some business at the flower shop, Hinata had training from Hiashi, Choji was going to a clan party, someone's birthday, I think, Naruto didn't remember, and Shikamaru was sleeping. The blonde didn't wake Naru, he understood how much he, with his restless mother, needed rest. Naruto found himself near the Uchiha quarter out of habit. A couple of months ago, when Sasuke was regularly being kidnapped by the Clouds and other shinobi hunting for the Sharingan, he tried not to go far from there, so that he could come to the rescue if necessary. Of course, he had to hide from the Jonin. But if it weren't for the man in the dog mask, the blonde would have been interrogated long ago. For some reason unknown to Naruto, the Anbu never detained him. Although the fact that Uzumaki was always hanging around the Uchiha quarter should have already aroused suspicion. The boy slowly walked along the pond. The same one where he awakened the Sharingan and met Itachi. Naruto felt like he remembered every outline of its shore. His gaze caught the top of the black-haired head. Sasuke was sitting alone on the platform, his legs dangling. Uzumaki wanted to make a sarcastic joke about the brunette himself and the absence of his eternal harem of female fans, but he bit his tongue. Now the Uchiha did not look like a smug cretin, as usual, but somehow lost, sad and lonely. Just like Naruto himself once was. I instantly lost the desire to be sarcastic. It must be very hard for him now. Maybe even worse than Naruto himself, when Itachi left. Itachi was alive, he could come back, and Sasuke's parents. And his entire clan. Uzumaki only now fully realized that it was very painful, to lose not just someone close, but all the people dear to him. But now Sasuke is all alone. No one, not even friends. When Itachi left, Naruto had friends who, without knowing it, kept him from losing heart. But Sasuke has no one left. The blonde approached the slope silently. He needed to cheer him up somehow, but the words wouldn't come. And what could he say? Naruto didn't have parents, didn't have relatives, so he wouldn't be able to understand the Uchiha's feelings, wouldn't be able to find the right words. But he couldn't remain silent either. What a mess you've made, Itachi. Uzumaki thought a little gloomily, carefully descending the stairs. The wooden steps creaked slightly, but the brunette seemed not to hear it, lost in thought. I have to say something. Sasuke, noticing the light crown of the head in the reflection, turned around abruptly. A prickly expression appeared on his face. What are you doing here? He exhaled, displeased, almost angrily. Why are you so sad? Naruto answered, ignoring the question. There was no desire to anger the brunette. None of your business, Sasuke said arrogantly. And anyway, get out of here, you idiot. Uzumaki suppressed the strongest urge to make a sarcastic retort. Oh, Sasuke, for once you come to you, try to communicate normally, and you are rude. How is this possible? Naruto made a very friendly face and plopped down on the other end of the platform, dangling his legs. The Uchiha tensed up. What the hell are you sitting here for, you stupid idiot? It's beautiful here, Naruto exhaled, looking ahead. It was spring, the trees were lushly green, the buds on the cherry trees were swelling, they were about to bloom. The sun was setting, painting the sky and water a beautiful golden color. The grass swayed in waves in the wind. Quiet and peaceful. Sasuke didn't answer. The boys sat for some time in complete silence. Just silently, side by side, not saying a word. It was very unusual and unusual. At the academy they were always squabbling with each other, so much so that the teachers had to separate them, but here they were sitting peacefully side by side. You miss them, don't you? Huh, Sasuke, thinking, did not answer right away. Well, about your parents. Is that why you were sitting here alone? What business is it of yours? Uchiha snapped. But Naruto ignored this outburst. Right now he felt too peaceful to swear. It must be very painful, he said quietly, looking into the distance. I can't fully understand it, because I have no one at all, no parents, no relatives. But I have lost people dear to me once. Although I know that it is not forever, it does not become less painful. So it is difficult for me to even imagine what you are feeling now. Sasuke froze, stunned by his words. So you're an orphan? He asked, amazed. Yeah, Uzumaki smiled wryly. My parents died on the day of the Kyuubi attack. And I had no relatives. Alone my whole life. Just like you are now. Funny, isn't it? Naruto didn't quite understand what was making him tell such details about his life now. Perhaps it was because of how he saw Sasuke. It felt like he had learned a deep secret. Which meant he had to repay him with something of equal value. I didn't know, the brunette finally muttered. Who cares? Many people don't know, or pretend not to know, the blonde waved it off. You know, there's just one thing I don't understand. You're popular with the girls, guys want to be friends with you, the teachers have been buzzing in our ears about how gifted you are and how we should all follow your example. But you don't even pay attention to anyone. You train alone and act like a scumbag. Why is that? Can't you just act like a normal person for once? I don't care about any of them. I have a goal that I need to achieve. The rest doesn't matter. And you didn't think that it would be easier to achieve it with someone else? Naruto raised an eyebrow. I have to kill one person. And only I have the right to do it. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Why the hell is this idiot bothering him? Damn it, Uchiha, you're an idiot. Do you really think you can accomplish anything on your own? You're a fool. The blonde snorted. You're still called a shinobi. Is it for nothing that all ninja work in teams? You can't be alone all the time. If you really want to achieve something, stop acting like a complete idiot. You're the one who should be talking about this. Sasuke hissed through his teeth. You don't have any goals at all. All you know how to do is suffer over all sorts of nonsense. Loser. So, I have no goal. I'm a loser. You don't know a damn thing. Naruto seethed. I'll make you, and then even you won't dare look down on me. And how so? The brunette asked sarcastically. I'll become Hokage. Here Uzumaki realized how stupid he had said. But it was too late to retreat. I'll become Hokage and prove that I'm not a loser. Even you will have to acknowledge me, stupid Sasuke. This will be my goal now. You'll never become Hokage, idiot. Sasuke shouted. And don't expect me to acknowledge you. Oh, so. And the boys jumped up and grappled with each other. Not in a sparring match of future shinobi, but in a banal children's fight, where each, unable to prove his case verbally, tried to prove it with his fists. Half an hour later, Naruto, sitting on the roof of his house and wiping the blood from his split lip, muttered out loud, well, why did I tell him this nonsense? What an idiot I am. Although the sight of Sasuke's face, which for once showed any emotion other than proud indifference, was strangely calming. Uchiha was very strong in taijutsu. Naruto had to sweat to even block most of the blows. Sasuke moved quickly, precisely, sometimes, as if anticipating Uzumaki's movements, as if with the Sharingan activated. Truly a genius, even Naruto admitted it. It was a pity that there was no one to practice ninjutsu with. The blonde's wood techniques had reached a high level for his age, the boy had even learned several seal techniques, but demonstrating Mokuten was fraught with digging from both the Hokage and Danzo. But it was still hard to find a better partner for practicing taijutsu than Sasuke. Maybe someone from the Hyuga clan, but Hinata was too timid and not suitable for the role of a sparring partner, and I didn't want to communicate with the others at all. Kick, block, jump back, block, counter kick, dodge the kick to the jaw and jump back. Close the distance again. Attack. The speed of the brunette's movements was impressive. But Uzumaki did not give up his position. However, his muscles were starting to get tired from such an intense fight. After almost 2 hours of fighting, Naruto suddenly stopped and simply plopped down on the grass. Okay, that's it, I'm tired. I need a break. I thought so, weakling, snorted Uchiha. You will never become Hokage, loser. Uzumaki grinned widely in response. Well, we'll see. Uchiha also sat down on the ground, but further away from the blonde. Sweat was pouring out, bruises were forming on his body, his arms and legs were aching. The fight had been good, and Naruto as a sparring partner commanded respect. And despite Uzumaki's terrible academic performance, his reckless behavior and outright annoyingness, sometimes Sasuke even began to consider him a worthy opponent. However, allowing this loser to become stronger. No way, will you? Sasuke, lost in thought, didn't notice how Naruto appeared next to him and pulled out 2 small cardboard boxes of juice from his small bag, which he had brought to the block. One with orange, and the other. Uchiha snorted to himself and nodded briefly, accepting the tomato juice pack. What a bastard. It was hard to say what kind of relationship they had. It would be impossible to say that they hated each other. After that memorable conversation 4 years ago, that was impossible. From time to time, they even communicated normally, most often on abstract topics. But they never became truly close to each other and perhaps never will be. It was something on the border between enmity and friendship. Perhaps the ideal word would be rivalry, to prove your strength, to become better than the other. Yes, that's it. The boys sat together on the grass, silently sipping juice. And no one disturbed this calm, peaceful silence. At the distribution, Naruto already knew which team he would be assigned to, so he slept soundly right during the ceremony. One of the bonuses of owning a Mokuten was the ability to infiltrate the Hokage's office. Fortunately, the entire residence was built of wood. This is how Uzumaki was able to look at the lists in advance. He was not exactly happy about the presence of an Uchiha on the team, but he was reassured. Fulfilling Itachi's request, being on the same team with his brother, was much easier. The only thing that really upset him was that Ino did not get into his team. Although, given the specialization of the Yamanaka, Akamichi and Nara clans, this was predictable. But an unpleasant surprise awaited him at the meeting with his sensei. Kakashi Hataki's file, of course, listed his trait as unpunctuality. And Naruto, knowing this, arrived later than he was ordered. However, he was not mentally prepared for his mentor to stay longer than 6 hours. In the end, the blonde couldn't take it anymore and decided to play a little dirty trick. Hey, Naruto, what are you doing? Sakura asked in surprise, seeing the boy adjusting the board sponge in the doorway. This is stupid. Sensei is an experienced jonin, he would never fall into such a primitive trap. A couple of minutes later, the sponge landed right on their mentor's head. However, the man took this philosophically. But Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. The photo in the file that lay in the Hokage's office showed only an unremarkable face covered by a mask. Therefore, the blonde did not attach much significance to Kakashi's name, except for briefly noting his rich combat experience. But now that he saw the figure, the voice, the gait, he had met this man before. Only then he had been wearing the dog mask. And it was right next to him that the battle took place, in which Naruto fought side by side with an Anbu member for the first and only time. Commentary on Chapter 11. The Present and Pictures from the Past. Thank you for waiting so patiently for the sequel. The session won't let me fully engage in creativity now, but from the end of June I will be able to work more productively. So far, of all the maxis, I am writing this work the most actively. I am trying my best, and don't forget to join my VK group, starting from the next chapter. The sale will be posted there 2 to 3 days earlier than on CF. Yours Rising Phoenix, _. Chapter 12. The Test. Commentary on Chapter 12. The Test. At first I wanted, as promised, to post the sequel in the group, and then on KF. But I realized that it would be impudent, considering the long absence of the sequel. Written under Brand X Music, All or Nothing and Brand X Music, Spawn. It seems to me that it conveys the general mood well. And in general, the tracks from Brand X Music are epic. I recommend listening. The chapter turned out to be longer than usual, as an apology for the long absence of a continuation. And I also like the number 12. The next ones will be shorter. Probably. At the end of the chapter there is a small bonus waiting for you, _. Enjoy reading. Yours Rising Phoenix, _. Kakashi Hatake looked closely at his new charges with his one open eye and scratched his chin. How can I tell you? My first impression is that I don't like you, he said, watching the, to put it mildly, surprised and dissatisfied faces of the guys. He had never been given such a motley crew. As the Jonin thought, it would be a real headache, to establish relationships between them, to teach them, to keep an eye on them. It was necessary to manage to assemble such a crew, a nerd obsessed with a guy, a genius obsessed with revenge, and Naruto, who pretends to be a fool. Despised by almost the entire village, the Jinchuriki, who, in addition, was unlucky enough to inherit 2 legendary genomes. However, of all the Anbu, only Kakashi himself knew about Mokuden. In general, it was clear why Hatake was given this team. Both Sasuke and Naruto were the last Sharingan bearers in Konoha, whose power needed to be developed and kept under control. Kakashi was best suited for this purpose. Sakura was put on the team for balance, as an excellent theorist and, given her excellent chakra control, a potentially strong medic nin. The strongest genin team, if you think about it. The potential of the hidden leaf. And the fact that Hatake is their mentor is an indicator of the high level of trust on the part of the Hokage. But he himself didn't trust the third sensei, as expected, called the guys to the roof. Perhaps you should introduce yourself. What do you want to know? Naruto answered, a little more challenging than necessary. Well, there. The man spread his hands vaguely. What you like, what you don't like. Your hobbies, dreams and all that. You first, the blonde replied, looking attentively from under his brows. The feeling of deep surprise left him, replaced by an understanding of the situation. Of course, Kakashi Hatake was a former Anbu, one of those who had been tasked with monitoring the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, which was why he had been appointed Uzumaki's mentor, to control the Biju. In addition, one of the reasons was most likely the Sharingan. Kakashi was the only one who owned it and knew how to use it. Most likely, he would later train Sasuke. And perhaps Naruto himself. However, the blonde had several questions that he really wanted to ask his newly minted sensei. And he had no intention of being distracted by all sorts of trifles. As Uzumaki thought, he heard nothing new or useful about his mentor. And he, as if in revenge, now it's your turn. Let's start on the right. Naruto sighed quietly and put on his friendliest and, let's face it, idiotic expression. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I love instant ramen, and I love the ramen at Ichiraku that Iruka-sensei treats me to even more. What I hate most is waiting for the ramen to brew. Oh my god, what nonsense am I talking about? And my dream is to become Hokage and Naruto glanced quickly at Sasuke, and show what I'm really like. From the look on Kakashi's face, the blonde realized that he didn't believe a single word he said. However, that was to be expected. All that's left is to wait a little. Now this impromptu team survey will end, Sensei will warn about the standard survival training, the guys will disperse, and we can talk. And don't be late tomorrow, finished Kakashi. The boys, clutching the sheets of paper with the test rules in their hands, dispersed. That's all. At least, that's what it seemed to the Jonin. I want to talk to you, said a quiet voice, full of strange confidence. Uzumaki. That's all we needed. Did you want something, Naruto? Was it about tomorrow's mission? Hatake made a last attempt to avoid an unpleasant conversation, realizing its futility. Don't make excuses. The boy's look, thrown from under his brows, was firm. I want to know, why? Why didn't you tell the Hokage about my power? Kakashi looked at the boy carefully. A gloomy face, clenched teeth, loosely clenched fists and an expression of calm determination. Naruto was too mature for his age. While remaining a child who loved pranks, he saw, knew and understood much more than his peers. And he acted much smarter. And this strange combination of childishness and adulthood was a little frightening. Hatake realized that there was no point in remaining silent, hiding, or running away. Did you recognize me? Yeah, Naruto snorted. That was the only time I was spotted by Konoha Anbu. And you were alone then. Are you so sure about that? Kakashi chuckled, slightly surprised. In this area, Uzumaki nodded towards the trees, Mokuden provides ample opportunities for surveillance. You understand that, I constantly keep a close eye on the situation around me. And before that, and about the situation around Sasuke. The blonde almost choked. How did you? You saved him more than once back then, didn't you? There was no way you could have known that they were going to kidnap him, because you were on the other side of Konoha. The only explanation is some kind of technique. Considering your capabilities, one of the wood ones. Naruto nodded reluctantly, pursing his lips. I just don't understand, Hitaki continued, why did you do it? Although I have some guesses. Are you going to answer my question? Uzumaki's voice was filled with displeasure. I want to understand. And why are you so sure that I didn't tell you? Maybe the Hokage has known for a long time. The Jonin was very interested in observing the train of thought of this adult child. Otherwise, the Anbu would continue to watch me. Naruto shook his head. Sharingan and Biju are okay, but if I have wood release as well, then it becomes too dangerous for the village's top brass to leave me unattended. They already destroyed all the Senju because of the Mokuden. If they knew I had it, they wouldn't take their eyes off me. How do you know about Senju? The man muttered in amazement. This is classified information. Even he, a former Anbu member, was not told right away. How could a 12-year-old boy know this? First you will tell me why you didn't inform the Hokage, Uzumaki answered stubbornly. Itachi. Kakashi guessed. Well, since he told you such information, then I suppose you also know about Kyuubi and your parents. Judging by the way Naruto frowned even more, without saying a word, the Jonin knew he had guessed right. Well, that changed a lot. Kakashi sighed. He couldn't keep silent, and there was no point. Your father was my mentor, he said after a short pause, looking at the sky. Remembering those distant times was still a little painful. He was a truly great man. I owe him a lot. I should have taken care of you, Naruto, but I couldn't because of the secret order of the Hokage. The weapon of Konoha must not have attachments, and therefore I cannot trust anyone with its upbringing. I had no right to disobey. The blonde listened very attentively, but his eyes still looked distrustful. Later, I learned the truth about the destruction of the Senju, continued Kakashi. The virus that killed all the Mokuden carriers was created in the root of Anbu. Ah, you probably heard about it from Itachi. It undermined my faith in the village leaders. And then there was the incident with the Uchihas. It was too much. You know, Naruto, your father tried to fight the tyranny that reigns in the upper echelons of Konoha. He even managed to break through to the post of Hokage. Only he didn't stay there for long. For the sake of the fourth, I looked after you as best I could. And for his sake, I didn't tell you about your Mokuden. As Hitaki spoke, Naruto's face changed from gloomy to calmer. The mistrust disappeared, replaced by a tiredness that was unusual for a child his age. So that's how it is. The blonde finally almost whispered. He felt that the Jonin was not lying. Thank you. For helping then, for keeping an eye on me. And for not telling. Kakashi smiled slightly and allowed himself a small liberty. He came up and gently patted Naruto on the head. You have a similar personality to Itachi. It's immediately obvious who your first teacher was, and he grinned slightly, so that it was not noticeable because of the mask. Just as kind and smart beyond his years. But your love of pranks is definitely from your mother. Naruto smiled a little sadly. The words pierced his heart with the pain of memories. But at the same time, the comparison with Itachi and his mother warmed his soul pleasantly. Naruto, lazily stretching, walked with his backpack to the clearing. It was about 10 o'clock in the afternoon, not hot at all. After a hearty breakfast, what could be so terrible about a training test that you can't eat? His mood was high, and he was full of energy. Judging by the dissatisfied look of the teammates who were already standing on the clearing, they had been waiting for a long time. Sensei was still not there. Someday I'll strangle him for being late, Uzumaki made a mental note and plopped down on the grass. He wanted to believe that he didn't have long to wait. While replaying yesterday's conversation in his head, Naruto didn't notice how he was completely immersed in memories. A little over 4 years ago. I was terribly sleepy. Naruto stretched sleepily, somehow crawled out of bed and went to the stove, getting ready to put the kettle on. He yawned loudly. He took out a cup. He yawned again. When will they calm down? The blonde thought languidly about the shinobi who tried to kidnap Sasuke with his Sharingan. Already the 5th attempt, again fruitless, fortunately, but the Mokuden and Sharingan took an immeasurable amount of chakra. Plus the attempt was at night. I wanted to sleep. Naruto, why are you late? The boy opened one eye and looked at Sakura. I was having breakfast, he answered briefly, showing a complete and absolute unwillingness to continue the conversation. But sensei forbade us to have breakfast. And he forbade being late. Something wrong. Haruno stopped herself. Sasuke simply remained silent, frowning. Naruto closed his eye again. There was nothing interesting to do at the academy, so Uzumaki slept peacefully all day. The training that he and the guys had agreed to do at the training ground 2 hours after classes was much more appealing to him. Practicing taijutsu with Hinata, defending against Shikamaru and Choji's clan techniques. Training with Ino. After classes, Naruto sat on the roof while waiting for his friends and looked at the sky. He was tormented by a strange premonition. Perhaps the small group from the stone that he had managed to stop today was not the only one. It was unlikely, of course, large groups of enemy shinobi could not sneak into Konoha territory unnoticed. However, such a possibility should not be ruled out. Putting his hand on the wooden ledge on the roof, Uzumaki concentrated his chakra, scanning the area with Mokuden, a complex and chakra-consuming, but effective technique. An Anbu observer was found almost immediately. He was nearby and, fortunately, only one. But it was still worth being careful. The clone's signal came completely unexpectedly. Naruto even flinched when the clone's memory flowed into his mind. An ambush was waiting for Sasuke at the clan estate, 5 rather strong shinobi from the cloud. Luckily, the Uchiha was delayed at the training ground and was in no hurry to go home. Naruto tensed. He immediately realized that he would hardly be able to cope alone. So what? Talk Sasuke out of going home. Fight. After some hesitation, Naruto went down to the academy, where there were no students, and created a clone. He sent it to the brunette, and he himself went to the Uchiha quarter, putting henge on himself. And he didn't notice how that same Anbu guy was following him. Kakashi finally deigned to show up at the clearing. At 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Having provoked the quite justified anger of Team 7 and woken up the blonde who had dozed off by that time, briefly explaining the essence of the test, jingling the bells, and in the end, pathetically disappearing in clouds of smoke. Naruto sighed. So, a test of teamwork. As Shikamaru would say, looking at his comrades, problematic. So, listen here, he said quietly, turning to his teammates. I don't really care whether I return to the academy or not. And besides, I had breakfast, so you can keep the bells. Naruto. Sakura breathed out in amazement, but the blonde didn't let her finish. You can take the bells for yourself. Another thing is that none of us can do this alone. We'll have to work together. Why such generosity? Sasuke chuckled. Do you want to play hero? Use your only brain, Uchiha, Naruto quipped. He's a Jonin, he can take on the likes of us with one finger. So you better shut up and help me figure out how to defeat him. Yeah, it'll be hard without Sharingan and Mokuden. Sasuke, judging by his expression, was ready to tear the blonde apart on the spot, but he didn't say a word. He understood that he was right. Apparently, the enemy shinobi had a sensor. Naruto was detected on the approach, attacked with a long-range lightning technique. The wood shield easily blocked it, but now the enemy became aware of Uzumaki's Mokuden. The blonde was able to neutralize 2 people with ribbons relatively easily after a quick exchange of blows. And then the difficulties began. Dodging the throwing iron, blows and techniques coming from 3 directions at once was difficult even with the Sharingan. The obvious difference in experience was evident, which both Naruto genomes could barely compensate for. In addition, it turned out that one of the remaining shinobi possessed the water release. It was impossible to predict this with the Sharingan with 2 tomo. Water prison, as Naruto learned from personal experience, is an unpleasant thing. Especially when a discharge of lightning chakra is immediately sent through it. And if a strong discharge is sent several times in a row, then not only does the sensation become really bad, but there is almost no strength left for a counterattack. If only the mask doesn't fall off. But he managed to hook one of them with a wooden spike. He won't be able to run for long, with such a hole in place of his liver. The shadow clones attacked Kakashi from different sides. Jonin noted Naruto's high level of taijutsu, as well as the fact that the copies, even taking into account their large number, 8 at once, did not interfere with each other. Right, left, bottom, it was becoming increasingly difficult for Hatake to parry the blows. Kunai flew from above. It was Sakura. Although she did not have enough strength to conduct a full-fledged fight, she provided good support. The man was forced to use a substitution jutsu to get out of the line of attack. Big fireball. Sasuke didn't let his guard down and attacked as soon as his mentor was distracted. But he still didn't manage to catch Kakashi. Even worse. Because of the flash of flame, he lost sight of him. Doden. Mass grave. Uchiha was sucked into the ground up to his neck. And in the next second, several events happened at once. With a soft whiz, the shuriken cut both bells off Kakashi's belt. Sakura. Naruto's scream was heard throughout the clearing. Hatake, realizing what the genin were going to do, tried to intercept the bells, but tripped over some root. In this small, a split-second, delay was enough for Haruno to intercept both bells. Sasuke-kun. Almost instantly forgetting about them, the girl rushed to the brunette. Sasuke-kun, I'll help you get out. Naruto snorted. Couldn't she see that frowning face? Didn't she understand that her help was not only unnecessary to the Uchiha, but also disgusting? Although right now Uzumaki was more concerned about the fact that he still couldn't fight without his genomes. But it was less than a second. The blonde tried to calm himself down, but wilted, catching the understanding look of the sensei. Well then, congratulations, you were able to get the bells, Kakashi said as soon as Sasuke climbed out of the ground. Now, decide which of the three of you will return to the academy. We decided before it even started, Naruto said. The others looked at each other. But, this is wrong, Sakura cried out. You did no less than us. You helped come up with the plan, cut the bells. I hate to admit it myself, but Sakura is right, Sasuke said sullenly. It would be unfair if you went to the academy. So what do you suggest? Naruto quipped. Maybe you should go instead of me. Or Sakura, I mostly don't care about having to study a second time, but you do. So, if we can defeat Sensei, do you think we'll all be left as genin? Sasuke grinned, cutting Uzumaki off. Kunai flashed dangerously in his hands. Reikiri. Naruto opened his eyes and saw that the shinobi holding the water prison had fallen, pierced through. The boy coughed, spitting out water, and looked up. That same Anbu guy with the dog mask. Damn. He definitely knows about Mokuden now. The blonde staggered and almost fell. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that the cloudman that Uzumaki had caught was already lying on the ground. It was unclear whether he had fallen from the wound inflicted by Uzumaki himself, or whether the dog had overcome him. He didn't even have the strength to turn around. Naruto just listened. The crackle of lightning, the clang of weapons, a short cry, and everything went silent. Who won? Consciousness was slowly slipping away. As he fell, the blonde felt himself being caught and heard a quiet voice. I think you should learn how to use Mokuden for healing. But you did well. Well done, Naruto. Darkness closed in around. You all passed. Naruto turned to his sensei. He was definitely smiling, even though it wasn't visible through the mask. The boys blinked their eyes in surprise. But why? Sakura muttered. What about the rule? You were the first to understand the value of teamwork, the Jonin explained. The first to understand that it is impossible to complete any task alone. You were able to use each of your strengths wisely and, as a result, you got the bells. But why were there 2 bells and not 3? Sasuke asked. To see how strong your bonds of comradeship are, the Jonin replied. Sometimes missions are difficult to accomplish without casualties. But if you stopped thinking about your team in order to save yourself, you would fail. Kakashi paused for a moment and looked off into the distance, apparently collecting his thoughts. You know, those who break the laws of the ninja world are often called worthless. But those who don't care about their comrades are much worse. You were the first to pass the test precisely because you didn't abandon each other. The boys smiled. Well, Kakashi summed up, starting tomorrow, Team 7 will begin carrying out missions. Hooray! Bonus alternative version of events. So what do you suggest? Naruto quipped. Maybe you should go instead of me. Or Sakura, I mostly don't care about having to study a second time, but you do. So, the blonde turned around and walked away at a leisurely pace. Hey, where are you going, Naruto? Sakura asked. Uzumaki stopped and cast a proud glance over his left shoulder. I sacrificed a few more years of my life for the 2 of you. Appreciate it. And now, like a true hero, I will walk off into the sunset. What the hell is a sunset, idiot? It's noon. Sasuke flared up. True heroes don't pay attention to such trifles, Naruto answered calmly. A sharp gust of wind swirled the leaves on the road and slightly tousled the blonde hair. It seemed that even the sun in the sky stopped, imbued with the pathos of the moment. Well, don't remember me badly. Uzumaki turned around and continued on his way. The team stood in absolute silence and complete misunderstanding of the situation. Finally, Sakura spoke up. Naruto, if you're going into the sunset, why aren't you going west, but north? The sunset will be in the direction I'm going, the blonde answered without turning around. At that moment, Haruno realized that at certain moments Naruto was capable of looking much cooler than Sasuke. And this caused cognitive dissonance in both of her personalities. And Kakashi realized that something had clearly been missed in the boy's upbringing. Chapter 13. The Key. Commentary on Chapter 13. The Key. A short message to the readers. Work on this fanfic will be temporarily suspended. Attention, I am not freezing this fanfic. The sale will be coming out, most likely, as usual. I will just give priority to my other works for now. I am writing this message so that I don't get comments like, when is the sale? So, that seems to be all for the organizational issues. Enjoy reading. Yours Rising Phoenix __. There was dust everywhere. Lots of dust. A lot of dust. The dirty glass, unwashed for many years, did not let in much light, which is why the room was unpleasantly dark. Scraps of paper, some pieces of wood, garbage and here and there, mouse droppings were scattered on the floor. Naruto whistled. Even at his worst, his apartment had never been such an epic mess. I think professional cleaners would have been much better suited for this mission. Or were they scared by so much trash and left? Sasuke slowly ran his finger along the dark gray surface of the dresser. The dresser was unexpectedly not gray, but bright blue. The boy wiped his hand on his pants leg in disgust. Oh, shit, why do I have to clean instead of training? He thought, gritting his teeth in displeasure. Naruto, just try to break anything. I'll personally rip your arms off. Sakura hissed, looking sideways at the blonde. He wanted to grin in response, but dust got into his nose, and instead he sneezed loudly. Haruno covered her face with her hand and sighed. This time, Team 7 had to completely clean out a mansion that was inherited by one of the 4 sons of a major merchant. In fact, the father of the family had been dead for 8.5 years, but the children had not been able to divide the property until recently. All these years, the mansion, sealed until the court's decision, stood untouched, and all this time dirt had accumulated in it. And now the Genins had to do a general cleaning. And they had to do it in 2 days, until the new owner returned from a business trip. And why the hell are we, the shinobi of the hidden leaf, given such idiotic tasks? Uzumaki muttered. His teammates were in complete solidarity with him this time. Are they warriors or what? Moreover, the mansion looked too dirty. The huge library was moved to a separate wing. The spacious square room with high ceilings and windows to the east, west and south turned out to be one of the few relatively bright rooms. Dark wood shelves stood in 3 neat rows running east to west, and in the space between them and the window were 2 small sofas, an armchair, and a large table. Near the entrance, which was on the northern wall of the room, were antique vases almost as big as Naruto. Such a big library. Sakura exhaled. Sensei, why aren't there that many books here? I heard that this library was created by the great-grandfather of the current owner, Kakashi replied. And although he was not a shinobi, he collected many rare books and scrolls. But over the years, all this wealth was squandered, and what remains is of little value. Really? Naruto smiled innocently. So we can throw away all these papers? Idiot. A heavy fist flew at the blonde's head. Haruno was in her element. Kakashi sighed heavily. Well, I hope you won't ruin anything here. And I'll leave you for a while. Work hard. Sensei, are you leaving us alone? Before the boys could react, Hitaki jumped out the window and disappeared in the smoke of the movement technique. There was no time to waste. In the Jonin's pocket lay a fresh, just-published book by Jiraiya. Ow. The pile of scrolls Uzumaki was carrying scattered with a loud noise as he tripped. Naruto, you can't leave him alone for a minute. Sakura shouted, nervously clutching a wet rag in her hand. Now I have to collect papers from all over the library. As always, clumsy, Sasuke commented, phlegmatically shaking dust off the top shelf. Although what else can you expect from the worst student of the academy? Shut up, Uchiha, the blonde snapped, starting to collect the papers. Damn mission, damn mansion, damn cleaning. Don't blame him, Kakashi, for sending clones on missions instead of himself. He should be training at the training ground right now. And so, wipe the dust, scrape off the dirt, clean up the trash. Collect papers. One seemingly nondescript leaf somehow caught his attention. Naruto picked it up and looked at it closely. There was a seal on it. All too familiar. Uzumaki turned to the wall so that his comrades would not notice his eyes and activated the Sharingan. And he almost cried out in surprise. The seal drawn on the sheet was exactly the same as the one on the first Hokage's pendant. Hey, what are you hiding there, Naruto? The blonde shuddered and convulsively stuffed the paper into his pocket. He was so distracted that he didn't notice Sakura approaching him. I'm hiding the free lunch coupons. He shouted. Old man Tuki is treating me. And I wanted to check if I lost them. And I'm not sharing them with anyone. The girl snorted. You're in your element, Naruto. All you think about is food. It seems like I got away with it, the boy thought with relief and stood up, getting ready to pick up the papers from the floor. And again he tripped, falling on a vase. An antique vase, one of the ones that stood by the entrance, wobbled and, as if in slow motion, fell to the side. Sakura squealed, causing Sasuke, who was standing on the stepladder, to jerk. The stepladder wobbled, but the Uchiha managed to keep his balance, balancing on two legs. At that very moment, the unbroken vase hit her. The brunette was at the first shelf, the one closest to the entrance. The balance was upset, and Sasuke fell. He didn't fall. He just did a somersault and landed safely, but he hit the cabinet. Then everything happened as if in slow motion. The shelves of one of the three rows fell one after another, like dominoes. It was even beautiful. What are you standing there for? Stop them. Sakura's scream brought the boys back to reality, and they rushed to stop the fall. But no way. The last cabinet hit the paper partitions. They tore. One of the scraps caught an oil lamp, which was still burning for some unknown reason. Pazar. Naruto squealed. Then there were screams, running with water, attempts to put out the flames. The genins put out the fire before it spread to other rooms, but now half the library was in a more than deplorable state. Well, fuck, now this is going to be a blast, summed up the disheveled Uzumaki. Do you think we're going to get into trouble? We need to quickly clean all this up before sensei gets here. Sakura was alarmed. There was such a rumble here, he must have heard it. But Kakashi was too engrossed in reading Jiraiya's new book and so he didn't pay any attention to the noise. And we've already been on real missions. Ino announced happily. For example, yesterday we caught bandits in the village of Suruga. That was our first combat mission, Choji said. Before that, we were doing the same thing as you. And just a week ago we were escorting a noble lady. Just the spouses of a gunsmith. Don't interrupt, Shika, accompanying a noble lady to the land of hot springs. Lucky, Naruto sighed. And we're still weeding the gardens and walking the dogs. Why can't they give us better tasks? I'm tired of it. At least it's not that stressful. Shikamaru said, thoughtfully fiddling with the petal pendant on his neck. Uzumaki smiled to himself. None of his friends took off their part of the common decoration. It warmed his soul. For the first time in a long time, they were able to gather together. Almost all of them, Hinata had not yet returned from her mission. Well, where are we going? Nara asked. Naruto thought about it. You know, guys, he began, I wouldn't mind eating. I support, Choji blurted out. Ino laughed. You are incorrigible, as always, just to eat. You haven't changed at all over the years. Oh, come on, Naruto snorted. How about some pizza? I'm on a diet, the girl replied. I have to become prettier than Sakura so that Sasuke will notice me. Uzumaki clenched his teeth. He really wanted to say that for him, Ino was the most beautiful of all, even without any diets, but he kept silent. She wouldn't understand. After all, he was just a friend to her. Well, I suppose you won't get fat from just pizza. Naruto said, noticing Shikamaru's penetrating gaze. Well, it was hard to hide anything from a boy who was smart beyond his years. Yamanaka sighed and smiled. Well, since you insist. But only one. The Hokage Rock had a great view of Konoha. It was already quite dark, and the entire village was lit by lanterns. The boys sat on the very edge, dangling their legs and gobbling up mochi. It's just a pity that Hinata couldn't come, Ino sighed. Oh well, we'll get together next time. When will it be, this next time? Shikamaru drawled lazily. We'll all be busy now. So it's unlikely we'll be able to get together sooner than in a month. For a long time. Naruto simply remained silent, enjoying the comfort. It wasn't that he felt uncomfortable around his teammates, but he felt most at ease with his childhood friends, the ones he knew for a long time and trusted. He didn't have to pretend to be a fool, say cliched phrases, or fit in with others. His friends were the ones the blonde could be himself with. And yet there was something Naruto had never told them. Sharingan, Mokuden, too many were eager for carriers of such powerful genomes. If Uzumaki revealed his secret, he would put his friends in danger. And he couldn't allow that. I guess it's time for us to go our separate ways. Ino said, bringing the blonde out of his reverie. We have a mission tomorrow morning. We have it too, Uzumaki answered. It's really late. However, our sensei definitely won't come before 10 in the morning, so I'll walk around a little longer. Then see you later, Naruto. Bye, guys. The blonde man waved at them, smiling, and when his friends disappeared behind the green hedge, he sighed heavily. He didn't want to go back to an empty apartment. So the boy, as usual, leaving a clone in his place, went to the quietest place in all of Konoha, Training Ground 11. The sheet of paper from the library that Naruto hadn't thought about during the meeting with his friends was now burning inside his pocket. He couldn't wait to find out what kind of seal was on his pendant. Settling himself comfortably on a log at the edge of the platform, the boy unfolded the sheet. As he thought, it was an excerpt from a book on Fuinjutsu. Yeah, if someone found out that I pocketed something from the customer's house, I'd kill me. Naruto activated his Sharingan and looked at his pendant again. The seal pattern on it and the one on the page matched exactly. Spatial seal. The boy eagerly read the scant lines. They said that the technique was invented by the first Uzukage, its secret was kept in the hidden whirlpool and after the destruction of this village it was lost. Naruto remembered that in Fuinjutsu the order of the drawn symbols is as important as the order of hand seals in ordinary techniques, and therefore it is often impossible to repeat the FUNN, even having the corresponding drawing in front of you. It's a key for a technique that connects 2 points in space. Naruto muttered under his breath. It's similar to my father's technique. But it doesn't require elemental chakra. In some ways, it's even more convenient. The key. So, my pendant is a key that can allow me to teleport. Uzumaki tried to understand. If the seal on his pendant allowed him to use the transfer technique, then where were the connecting points? Then it dawned on the boy. The first point is the stone in the grove near the training ground. The very one with the spiral pattern, only it could be the key. Then many things fell into place. It was immediately clear why the training ground was created, why there was such a powerful barrier around it and why only the Uzumaki could pass through this barrier. Uzushio and Konoha were once allied, but apparently, the whirlpool did not fully trust some of the leaf leaders. And they did the right thing, in general. Although it could not save their village from destruction. It was almost 11 o'clock at night. Too late, too dark, and anyway, another mission tomorrow morning. Besides, Naruto had no idea where the second teleport point was. What if there was something deadly there? Besides, it was far from certain that the assumptions about the stone were correct. It might not have been the first point. And anyway, testing unfamiliar equipment without proper preparation was the height of recklessness. However, a burning, sharp curiosity drowned out the voice of reason. Naruto had spent so much time trying to solve the riddle of the first necklace that now that he had the answer in his hands, he was eager to test its truth. The boy ran like a bullet to the stone. The moon rose just in time, making it easier to navigate. It took Naruto less than 2 minutes to get there. Uzumaki stopped and, activating the Sharingan, examined the stone. The dojutsu allowed him to clearly see not only the spiral, but also the almost erased Fuinjutsu symbols, which were impossible to see with normal vision. The blonde took a deep breath and exhaled. His hands were shaking with anticipation and wariness. What if there was danger on the other side? Naruto took off his pendant, inserted the greenish crystal into the indentation on the stone and passed his chakra through it. Nothing happened. No, am I wrong? The boy frantically tried to figure out if he could have done something wrong. What if the transition point wasn't here after all? And at that moment, the half-erased lines of Fuinjutsu became clear. Paths of symbols ran along the stone, the ground and formed a perfectly even circle around Naruto. The boy watched in amazement as stripes of light began to stretch upward from the symbols, and as these stripes formed a cocoon around him. The world was drowned in a soft white glow. Naruto, you're late. Sakura gave the blonde a good slap. You're even more late than sensei. How is that even possible? Sasuke snorted in disdain. Sorry. Uzumaki yawned. I just went to bed late yesterday. What were you doing last night that you came 2 hours later than Kakashi-sensei? We thought something had happened to you. So you were worried. Naruto drawled sarcastically and yawned again. No. Why are you fighting again? It hurts. So that you don't sleep. Okay, that's enough, said Kakashi. I'll assign a punishment for being late later. In the meantime, let's go get a mission. I think I'll ask for a higher ranking mission for you today. Rank C. Naruto beamed with happiness. Not D. Exactly. I think you're prepared enough. You don't want to do standard missions like catching cats and weeding gardens, do you? No. Naruto and Sasuke said this together, and then glared at each other. Jonin snorted. What kind of children are his charges? And yet, for what reason did Naruto, who never suffered from insomnia, not sleep that night? Chapter 14. First C rank mission. Journey to the land of grass. And this is what we're supposed to protect. Naruto said skeptically. This is our C rank mission. If only you had some respect for old age, young man. The old man croaked in response, short, squat, slightly stooped, with faded eyes, once green, but now, dirty gray. I'm already in my 9th decade. I saw how Konoha was built, I can remember your grandfather when he was young. That's enough, Mr. Kuromatsu, Kakashi stopped him gently. Naruto, apologize to the customer right now. I didn't mean to insult him. It's just, who would want to harm this old man? He doesn't have much money, And as he himself said, he doesn't have any relatives, and he doesn't even have anyone to give the ransom to if something happens. The roads between villages can be very dangerous. Sakura objected, especially since Kuromatsu-san's health could fail at the most inopportune moment. Naruto sighed heavily. He had hoped that their C-rank mission would involve something more serious and interesting. Like capturing criminals. Of course, missions of that rank would not involve meeting other shinobi, but even those missions varied in difficulty. And to accompany an old man who already breathes on incense sticks. Everything is better than before. The blonde thought a little sadly. After all, before all their missions took place within the land of fire, and now they would need to travel to the land of grass. Although the fact that they would have to ride in a cart was depressing. Jumping through trees was definitely cooler, not to mention much faster. But a 90-year-old man would certainly not have survived such a journey. I wonder why he was willing to offer so much money just to be taken to the land of grass. The road felt very long. Perhaps it was the measured creaking of the cart wheels, which made you want to yawn after 5 minutes. Or maybe it was the forced idleness. Kakashi was deep in another pulp novel. Old man Kuromatsu was asleep, smacking his lips from time to time. Sakura, whose turn it was to stand guard now, was trying her best not to doze off next to the driver, a silent, dark-haired, brown-eyed young man in his 20s who was driving a pair of mares. Sasuke. And Sasuke was thinking about something. He frowned and stared at one point. Naruto sighed. To be honest, he never liked how the younger Uchiha had short-circuited after the clan's death. He remembered what Sasuke had been like before, a kind and open child, and even though the blonde had never had the chance to communicate with him more closely, even though he was jealous of Itachi towards his brother, he always thought that he could become friends with him. And after his parents died, he seemed to become a completely different person. In fact, that was the case. Hatred and thirst for revenge burned out all of Sasuke's good feelings. Is this what Itachi wanted? Naruto had been incredibly stupid when he had assumed that Sasuke was a smug idiot back at the academy 4 years ago. Maybe it was jealousy of Ino, maybe. No, it was probably jealousy. It wasn't that he wanted to be friends with the Uchiha, but he didn't want Itachi's brother to become like that, distant, withdrawn, fixated on revenge. However, the precious time when it was still possible to break through the wall of alienation had been lost. And yet Naruto didn't back down. He was sarcastic, teasing, dragging him into fights. In short, he tried to stir him up one way or another, to distract him from his probably heavy thoughts. It didn't work out very well, though. But Uzumaki wasn't going to give up. But now he couldn't even imagine how to start the conversation. And the monotonous creaking completely cut off his ability to think coherently. It would have been better if they had walked, honestly. I'm bored, Naruto finally said, yawning widely. How much longer do we have to go? Long, muttered Sakura. You asked for the mission, and now you're whining. Like you didn't want a C-rank mission, Naruto replied. But I'm so bored oh. Shut up. Naruto shut up, offended. But after 3 minutes he started again, boring. Haruno remained silent. She was also tired of the forced inaction, so there was no way to object. Besides, the blonde's whining was keeping her awake. Meditate. It would be good for you to be silent for a while, Sasuke said sullenly and then added with undisguised sarcasm, oh yeah, I forgot, you don't even know that word. It's too complicated for you, isn't it? I'm surprised you were able to squeeze out such a long phrase, the blonde returned the favor, grinning sarcastically. Did you use up your entire vocabulary? You'll probably be silent for another week, idiot. I hear it from a loser. Should a weakling like you say something like that? You couldn't beat a loser like me in the last sparring match. Isn't it because you yourself interrupted the fight, demanding a break? You're still a weakling. Remember how sensei buried you? But you almost got kicked back out to the academy. Enough. Naruto was hit on the head with a book, and Sasuke received a hefty slap. Although Kakashi did not hit hard, his blows were painful. You are disturbing me from reading and not letting Mr. Kuromatsu sleep. The old man actually stirred, but fortunately for the blonde, he didn't wake up. Uzumaki sighed, silently sitting down on the other end of the carriage, not forgetting to stick his tongue out at Sasuke, and settling into a more comfortable lotus position. Meditation, after all, wasn't such a bad idea, especially considering how long it had been since he'd done it. The dark corridor was flooded with water. There wasn't much of it, it only reached Naruto's ankles. But the water was cold and smelled unpleasant, like iron, and, as luck would have it, there wasn't a single dry spot to be seen around. A dim orange light was pouring from the ceiling. Debris, Pieces of reinforcement and other iron and not so iron trash were sticking out everywhere. Long corridors intersected, intertwined, branched out. A real labyrinth. It was truly creepy. There was a terrible aura in the air. An aura of death. A thirst for murder. The wave of ki came unexpectedly, and the boy closed his eyes for a moment. Apparently, its source was far away, because it was greatly weakened, and it was impossible to understand who it was directed at. And yet, the power of this thirst for murder was astonishing. There, in the far corners of the corridor, lurked a truly terrifying creature. Uzumaki knew for sure that this was so, and so the dull, distant roar of the biju was almost not unexpected. True, it did not become any less creepy. For some reason, Naruto had never been able to enter the subconscious on purpose. The first time was in a dream, the second was 2 years ago during meditation. And both times he was unable to reach the end. This time he will try to get to Kyubi. Naruto ran forward, relying on pure intuition. The corridors were intertwined in such a way that it was impossible to navigate by sounds. However, there was something by which one could understand whether one was going in the right direction. The reddish glow smoothly turned into a poisonous yellow as it approached the goal and became barely noticeable, but brighter. The fox's low, barely audible growl grew louder. Naruto gritted his teeth and sped up. Turn. Another one. And another. The roar stopped, but not for long. Literally a minute later, the biju roared twice as loudly. Turn. Another one. Now you can see the opening from where that poisonous yellow glow is coming. The blonde literally flew into a large round room with high ceilings. He suddenly stopped in surprise, almost falling and plowing the floor with his nose. There was more water here, by the way, not much, about 10 centimeters, lower than knee-deep. Looking up, Uzumaki saw a huge cage. It, unlike the rest of the room, was dimly lit. 2 bright red eyes flashed in the darkness. Naruto, come in, it's your turn to stand guard. Uzumaki let out a disappointed sigh through his teeth and opened his eyes. Sakura was standing over him, leaning over him with a displeased look. You won't wake me up when you need to. The girl scolded the blonde. Lazybones. The boy snorted silently. When he chatters, she is displeased. When he is silent and does not answer, she is also. His legs were a little numb. Moving his fingertips, Naruto felt a tingling and slight numbness. If someone attacked them now. So, we can't let our guard down. Even if this mission is only C rank. The road Team 7 was traveling along was pretty deserted. In the hour and a half Naruto had been on guard, only 2 people had walked past them, and a single broken down cart with firewood, driven by an elderly woman, had passed by. After all, there was almost no trade with the land of grass, unlike, for example, the land of iron. The driver dozed off, his head on his chest, but the horses confidently continued moving along the road, without turning anywhere. Apparently, such a long route was familiar to them. Naruto's attention was dulled by that damn creaking of the wheels. The boy shook his head from time to time to keep his concentration, but it was still hard for the genin, who was used to movement, not to nod off. He miraculously heard the barely audible rustle, and immediately, as unnoticeably as possible, pushed his teammates and the driver aside. Kakashi had already noticed the surveillance, but he did not stop reading the book. Or was it just an illusion? However, Naruto did not go into details. Now he was trying to determine how many opponents they had, but on a moving cart and especially in front of his teammates, he could not use his technique of scanning the area. A soft ringing sound, and Naruto, with a loud cry of, "Watch out!" barely managed to throw himself at the old man, covering him with his own body, and in the fall he folded the clone seal. Sakura and Sasuke fell to the bottom of the carriage. They were pushed there by Kakashi, who reacted in time. A huge shuriken whistled from above and behind, and cut off half of the neck of the driver, who did not have time to dodge, and then crashed into a tree, breaking through the thick bark. Blood spurted out like a scarlet fountain. The young man's body fell forward in an awkward pose, like a puppet whose strings had been cut at once. Sakura let out a piercing shriek. Naruto himself didn't throw up only because the memories Itachi showed him had shown him worse. Damn it. They didn't protect him. And even though this driver wasn't the customer, even though they hadn't exchanged a word with him during the entire trip, even though his safety wasn't Team 7's business at all, Naruto felt disgusted by his death. 2 masked men jumped down from the top branch of the neighboring tree, and another jumped out from behind, cutting off their escape route. The first, a tall, thin, dark-haired man, clutched a kunai in his hand, while the other, shorter and with lighter hair, threateningly played with a long, narrow sword. The third, a muscular, stocky man, was apparently the one who threw the shuriken. This is getting interesting, Uzumaki said quietly. He and his 4 clones tensed up, preparing to fight at any moment. Sasuke got into a fighting stance, his right hand slipped into his pocket. Sakura was shaking. Kakashi slammed the book shut with a sharp movement and slowly looked at his opponents. What do you want from us, good gentleman? He asked, putting it in his pocket. Can't you see that we are only escorting an old man home? Could you please let us through? The guy with the sword spat. Let the old man return what belongs to us. Otherwise, you will all die, and we will take it ourselves. What are you talking about? Mr. Kuromatsu doesn't have any valuables with him, the Jonin answered calmly. Let's do without lies, the shinobi with the kunai smiled, although this smile was more like a grin. ASII black bag with the Jurojin symbol. Give it to me, old man, and no one will get hurt. I'd rather die than give up the sacred relic of my temple. Kuromatsu seemed to have been transformed. Instead of the grumbling old man Naruto had seen in Konoha, a fearless man stood on the cart, confident in his own rightness. Now he seemed taller than he actually was, as if his stoop had suddenly disappeared. This transformation inspired genuine respect. Are you ready to die, then? And what about the kids? Maybe you want them to die with you. The brunette twirled the kunai on his finger. You know, it wouldn't be good if that cute girl over there ended up like your driver. The old man glanced sideways at Team 7. Naruto snorted. We are also shinobi. We can stand up for ourselves. Right, sensei. True. After all, protecting Kuromatsu-san is our mission, Kakashi answered. But later, he turned to the old man, narrowing his eyes unkindly. You will tell us why you concealed that your mission is at least B rank. Commentary on Chapter 14. First C rank mission. Journey to the Land of Grass. You thought there would be a mission to the Land of Waves. I'll break it to you. Zabuza and Haku won't be appearing in this work at all for the foreseeable future. Muhahahaha. De facto, this is my personal revenge for saving them both in my other Naruto maxi. Well, plus a very strong desire to do down. I hope I managed to surprise you, gentlemen readers, .. Jurojin is the Japanese god of longevity and immortality. To be honest, I thought that in the huge world of Naruto there can't be only one cult. So I allowed myself this liberty. And I was too lazy to come up with a name that would reflect the essence of the god and his cult more accurately than the real one.